Hey everyone, welcome to the Dyl Pickle Movie Network's one of our favorite show, Draft Day, and we were doing a Draft Day inspired Draft Day. I'll explain what that means in a little bit because it's a little high concept for some people, including myself, who created it. But I have some great panelists to bring on. I'm just going to bring them right on so that way we can just get right into it because the draft is about to begin. It's very draft-like today. I love it. Starting off, a co-host of the channel. You see her every Monday on here, even when she is. We pre-taped. You still see her every Monday, even though she doesn't always see you. But it is Kelsey Kilpatirck. How's it going, Kelsey? I was trying to milk that intro a little more, but I didn't really have much else to say. But you got what I was going for.
Oh, I got what you're going for sure, Dyl. I'm happy to be here on this marvelous draft day. All the panelists today have worked really hard. They've given it their all season here on the Dyl Pickle Movie Network, and I'm happy to join you.
Love it. Keep with the spirit. We also have another returning face. You see him all the time on the channel, but he is also a co-host of the channel for Picture This. We have a new Picture This episode coming this week, so stay tuned for it. But he is here first to draft some fun films. It is Mr. Chadwick Webb. How's it going, Chad?
Hey, it's going great. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic. It's not very straightforward. We have a little bit of a draft day inception going on, a little bit of a draft day meta episode, maybe. I'm looking to have some fun. I watched a movie that I liked more than I thought I would going into it. So there you go.
It's always fun. And of course, we have your partner in crime, your partner in life, and one of our great friends of the channel. It is Miss Kerri Webb. How's it going,
Hey.
Kerri?
Going great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I assume you also watched said film that will not be named, even though it's the title of our show, for this show as well. Did you like it more than you expected to as well?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. Well, I cannot wait to talk about it, but we can't do it with just 4 people. We need a 5th. We need a starting 5 here in our draft, and no better man to call for a last-minute replacement. We were supposed to have Matt, and we love Matt, but Matt is dealing with some house stuff going on. We hope he's all squared away with that and getting all the help he needs. But we are going to read off Matt's picks at the end too. I promised him I would. But we have a last-minute replacement. We have someone coming off the bench in this sports-related themed episode. We do have Mr. Dan Skip Allen. Dan, how's it going? Welcome.
Yeah, it's going great. I was glad. I was like, I just happened to be clicking on the Facebook page and like, oh wow, okay, yeah, I'll hit sure on there. And I'm, the said movie I've seen multiple times. I really like it. I love the main actor in it, and I'm a massive sports movie fan in general. So this really seemed like it fit me. As far as a draft, I didn't do that well in the last draft I was in, so I want to try to do better this time.
That's right. Well, we are happy to have you here, and thank you for taking the call last minute to come on. But everyone here has watched a certain film because it will be one of our categories today. So if you have not seen the movie Draft Day, oh no, I said the title. It's also the name of our show. But if you have not seen the movie Draft Day, go check it out and watch it because it might help for some of the categories that we pick. But all in all, you should be able to follow no problem because it is a very meta concept. And I'm going to introduce the rules right now just so you all know what we are drafting today because it is a little bit high concept. There will be 5 rounds total. A random draft order will be selected as always by a wheel. I have that ready. Draft is snaked. If you're 5th, you're first in the second round. If you're first in the first round, you're last in the second round, so on and so forth. For this particular draft, this is how we're doing draft day this time. Every category is inspired by a certain type of draft. The first category, you will have to pick a war film. This is the draft we don't like. This is the Vietnam draft, drafting soldiers to war. This is the draft that we say boo to. Number 2, though, is a movie set in a cold environment because, when it gets a little drafty in there and you get that little wind chill and you have to cover up, put on a little Snuggie or a sweater. That is the type of movie we're talking about. The one that is set in a cold environment, however you may make of that. Number 3 is a movie about bars, drinking, or alcohol. It can be a little bit vague. Not just character drinks a beer at one point in the movie, but pretty much a focus of the movie, a prominent part of the movie, because we love our draft beers. That is my go-to. I don't drink from the bottle. I drink draft, except today I might be drinking from the bottle. Number 4, a movie about football. This is kind of the most connected to Draft Day, the movie, but it is the magic that happens after the draft. Once the players are on the field, ready to go, even though we can talk about any football movies, it doesn't have to just be professional NFL football, but we are talking about American football. So no soccer films, even though I know everywhere else in the world they call it football. We're talking about American football. And then number 5, a performance from the 2014 Ivan Reitman film Draft Day. This is the one that we all had to watch for it. And we are drafting the performance. So not the performer and their body of work, just the performance in the film, because there are so many great ones to choose from. And if anyone does disagree with the eligibility of a pick, we can veto, and you need at least 3 of 4 votes to veto. So one person can say, I'll allow it, and 3 people can say no, and it'll be vetoed. And please do not discuss or mention picks until they are drafted. The only one that might be tough for this is the movie Draft Day. If you have to talk about a certain actor and a scene they did with another actor, fine. But the rest of the categories, let's really not tip our picks before they happen. But do I have any questions for my panelists before we get into spinning the wheel and deciding the order for today's draft? Cool. I've got the wheel here. Spinning now, so you can see I have not clicked it yet, just so no one thinks I'm cheating, because I never do, but everyone still accuses me of it. Here we go. Here's the first spin, and this person will decide their place in the order of the draft. And it looks like it's going to be ladies first. Kerri, you're going to be up here. Are you going to go first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, Kerri?
I'll go first.
First overall pick going to Kerri Webb. All right, and here is the second spin. It's so exciting. I always love this part of the draft. All right. And Dan, you're going to luck out. You get the second spin. Would you like second, third, fourth, or fifth pick of the draft?
Yeah, I'll go second.
Second pick of the draft. All right. So it's between the 3 hosts here. Let's see who's going to get the short end of the stick. And it looks like it'll be either Chad or I, because Kelsey, it looks like, is going to actually. Yep. Sorry, Chad. They saved the best for last, it seems. Kelsey, just kidding. Kelsey, what would you like to go? Third, fourth, or fifth?
I would like to go third, please.
Damn it. I really want a third, but it's okay.
Same.
There's no trades in this draft, unfortunately, so I will have to settle for fourth or fifth. But Chad, what's it going to be? Is it me or you? It is you, Chad. Are you going to go fourth or fifth?
Good question.
It is a great question.
All right. Yeah, screw it. Let me just do the back-to-back. I'll have to go fifth.
All right, so I'm going to be fourth. Not too upset about that one. Let me just pull up my list because I don't know where I put it. There it goes. Draft day. Okay, so the draft is about to commence. I'm just going to write down the order one more time. And for podcast listeners, I can say it one more time. Kerri is going to be first up. Dan Skibal in number 2. Kelsey in the 3. Dylan in the 4. And Chad rounding it out at the 5. So I'm going to put my hat on in honor of draft day, supporting my New York Giants. And the pick is in. First pick overall, Kerri. What are you going to go with?
Okay. I'm going to go with my football movie.
Okay.
Because I realized in preparing for this draft that I don't really love a lot of football movies. And I kind of kept scrolling past different sports movies and being like, oh, I could pick that if it was football, but it wasn't. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a family favorite classic, and that is Air Bud Golden Receiver.
Oh my God, yes. Love that pick, Kerri. Oh, why do you love Air Bud? Golden Receiver?
Football is really not my sport. Of all the sports, popular sports in the U.S., it's probably kind of my least one that I will usually throw on to watch. But this is a really fun movie. I was debating picking something that was only very tangentially football related, but decided against that. Well, I did want to kind of keep it a little bit more football focused, just to actually talk about football. But it's I don't know what else to say about it. It's a very cute movie with Air Bud playing on the football team. I quite enjoy it. I love dogs. So yeah.
It's a great pick. I'm looking back at my letterbox now. This is one that I haven't. I've seen a lot of the Air Bud and Air Buddy adjacent films. I don't have this one logged, so I don't know if I've seen it. I might have seen it when I was a kid, but I just love Air Bud. I love that Air Bud is going first overall in a draft, as he should. He's the athlete of the year, athlete of the moment. I think it's a great pick. I mean, just such a great premise, easily watchable for any age, any shape, any form. I love it. Kelsey, are you a fan of Air Bud?
I am a fan of Air Bud. I think that any movie where a dog is the main character is not a bad choice at all. I don't know if I've ever seen this one, but I respect the pick. I love it.
Yeah. Dan or Chad, any thoughts on Air Bud Golden Receiver? What a
Never
cool
saw it.
words.
Never saw it.
Never saw it. Chad, have you seen it?
Well, I don't know if I've actually seen that one. I know I've seen Air Bud. But I will say I kind of mirror Kerri's thoughts about like football movies. Like there's some great ones out there, but it's not as much as like other ones. One of my favorite shows of all time is a football show, but
Yeah.
I can't really say that for the movies. But I will say with Kerri's pick here, she has the potential to end up going for the title of cutest draft. So
Yeah.
it depends
there
on
you
her
go.
other picks.
All those puppy lovers, they're gonna see that number one overall pick and not read the rest of the draft board.
What's the cutest war film?
Oh
God.
boy.
Imagine an Air Buddies spinoff in war. No, I don't want to imagine that. That would be awful.
Oh my God, puppies going to war.
What is the sport that he plays in the original Air Bud? Is it also football?
Basketball.
Basketball. Okay. Air Bud. That makes sense because air basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Air Jordan. Listen. It took the meme where it's like I was today years old when I realized. Yep, it's a play on Air Jordan.
Yeah.
I did not figure that out until now. Chad and Dan are talking baseball in the private chat. So all right, pick 2. I will not be distracted. I will not click that again. Can you guys private message on your own just so I don't keep checking?
All right.
I see there's something wrong going on. No, it's okay. Just I'm recording it. I'm watching it later. All right, Dan, what is going to be your first overall pick in the draft, or second overall pick in the draft, but your first pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my bar movie, and I'm sure Chad and Dylan probably could figure this out once I got added to this, that there was only one bar / drinking movie that I would pick because it's my favorite movie of all time, and it's called Casablanca. American, Humphrey Bogart. He owns the greatest bar ever, in my opinion, because they sing against Nazism and all that kind of good stuff. We have some shady characters in there. We got some. Hey, if you like the person playing roulette, you can put it on number 22, whatever. And you got a great piano man, Sam the piano man, Dooley Wilson. He was great. I freaking love this movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. And when I saw this category, I was like, well, Casablanca for me. I don't know what these guys are going to pick, but everything else is second as far as I'm concerned. So I had to go with Casablanca when it came to that. I was shocked that I got this close to the top. I didn't know if Casablanca would be there when I got a chance to go, but I was going to go with bar first, and that's why I picked Casablanca.
It's funny because I didn't even think of it because I was thinking more like because it is entirely set in a bar, and you make a great point. It's just like I don't envision when I was thinking of like beer and draft alcohol and stuff. I was just not thinking Casablanca because it's more of like a formal setting, but it is a bar setting movie, and honestly, that might be one of the coolest. Like number one, I didn't expect that picks. 2 back-to-back picks that I just like was not expecting that I love so much. So Casablanca, Air Bud. I mean, we're starting off strong, but it's a great pick, Dan. I mean, Dan, Chad, and I talked ad nauseum about this film. On Picture This, but Chad, do you have any other words to add that haven't already been said about Casablanca? I mean, I know I love it. I know you love it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did have this on my list. It wasn't like on there for a while, but today I was going over. I was like, I don't have that many in the bar category, and I was like, wait a second, Casablanca. And this one's interesting because, like, if you're light on the bar stuff, you can put it on there, but you can also put it in the war category. So it kind of fits in a couple different places. So, but there's a lot, I think, more war films to choose from. So I think this is a great pick by Dan in that category for his movie because it totally fits and it's one of the best movies ever made. So there you go. You know what else? What else can I say? Check out that Picture This episode. Ship 1950 43. Yeah. That's right.
Kerri, any thoughts on Casablanca?
Yeah, it's one I didn't think of, and of course, as soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh, obviously, it takes place in a bar." Sorry, I don't know if my computer's making that.
It's okay. There's a little bit of a buzz hum from someone, but I don't know who.
I just muted everything.
Yeah, that's what I just did. Lost my train of thought. It's a perfect movie. And Ingrid Bergman is just one of my favorites. I just absolutely adore her. And every time I watch this movie, I just enjoy it more and more. So it's a fantastic pick.
Love it. Kelsey, any thoughts on Casablanca? Have you seen this one?
Criminally, I've never seen Casablanca.
There's a first for everything, Kels.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of the greats. I plan to like hit all of them like back to back to back. Like eventually, I just haven't gotten around to it. Like any of the
Yeah.
Godfathers, never seen. Casablanca, never seen. Like
That's a good part
I'm
here.
really uncultured, guys. Sometimes I feel like such an imposter hanging out with all of you because I'm like they're
No.
so knowledgeable and I'm such like a noob over here.
No, stop. No, that's what we love about having you on, Kels, because you also bring the picks that we necessarily weren't thinking of, and then we feel like the dumb ones. So it's totally fine. But Casablanca, great film, highly recommend it. But Kelsey, what film are you going to recommend? What's going to be your first pick of the draft here?
Well, I don't know if this pick is going to be too out of left field. Like, I'm pretty sure this might be a movie that's on a couple people's lists, but I'm most worried about my football movie because, like Kerri said, I've discovered something about myself through this draft day, and that's I don't think I love a football movie. I think that most sports movies are pretty redundant. Like, it's very underdog story. They lose in the first game, you watch them build up, they start winning, and then either at the end of the film, they either win the big game at the end or they don't. And if they don't, they learn an important lesson along the way. Like, I think they're all very similar. So I'm going to pick my football movie because I'm the most worried about this category because I don't have a ton of options. And I'm going to pick Remember the Titans.
Solid pick. Solid pick.
It's a great film. I remember watching it obviously as a kid. I specifically remember when ABC Family would like air it on weekends and it would be
All
like
the
coming
time.
up
Yeah.
next. Remember the Titans, like the narrator. And so I remember watching it as a kid, but I rewatched it for this and I was like, wow, this is a really solid movie, solid performance from Denzel, a young Ryan Gosling who's just adorable doing his little shtick in the background. Yeah, so this is my football movie pick. Oh, and in honor of draft day,
She's got
crack
props.
and open a cold one.
Can I just say something? Can I say something? I thought when Kerri said family film, da 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 da, whole 9 yards, I said, she's going with obviously the most obvious pick here. Remember the Titans, which you went there, but I was like, and then when Kelsey went with Remember, I was like, that's the one I thought everybody would go with, except for me because I've watched about 50 football movies and I know.
I was gonna say you're the football aficionado of the group. Do you like Remember the Titans, Dan?
Love Remember the Titans. Will Patton, Denzel. I mean, just it's such a great movie, and you can't. If people have anything bad to say about that movie, you just I don't know. I'm not going to say nothing mean about people. But come on, it's a great, good, feel-good movie. It brings two cultures together in a really difficult time in our country. How can you not like that movie? But plus, is what Ryan Gosling. Who else is it? I mean, some big name people had like one of their earlier roles in it.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I actually, this is another one like Air Bud where if I've seen it a long time ago to where I need to revisit it enough to have a formal opinion on it. But it is one of the most revered ones. If you look at a lot of lists, this is always on there. So I think it's a great pick, especially for the first round, especially because football for everyone aside from Dan is probably the most narrow category. I would say maybe not Chad. I don't know. We haven't gotten to him yet, but it is for me, and it seems for Kelsey and Kerri as well. So I'm excited you got that off the board. It makes my job a lot harder because I had it on the list just out of posterity. But I am still going to pick something I like because I don't think anyone but Kelsey would have taken the one I'm going to pick. So it makes my job easier knowing that Kelsey did not take it. Kerri or Chad, any thoughts on Remember the Titans?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go.
Yeah.
It's definitely like Dan was saying, it's definitely a feel good movie that that people love. I mean, I love watching it as well. I think it is very funny, very heartwarming. One of my favorite parts that I don't think has been mentioned is Ethan Suplee in the movie when he sings "Ain't No Mountain High Enough." Perfect, brilliant.
Yeah.
And I also do love seeing a little adorable Ryan Gosling. You got to get the Goss. You got to get some of that Goss action. So
Little Gosling that he is.
And it's got another one of my favorite scenes. I'm thinking this is right, where it's where he's trying to get the what do you call it? Where it's like discipline. He's trying to promote discipline. He's got them running out in the rain and stuff like that. So And I think that's scenes like that I think are pretty great. So
Yeah. Kerri, any thoughts on Remember the Titans?
Yeah, I didn't pick this one because I have only seen pieces of it, probably on like ABC Family. So that's the only reason I didn't pick it. But like the scenes I have seen are fantastic, and like I know the whole story. It's like one of those where I know the whole story of the movie, and I feel like almost I've seen it, but I know I've never sat down and watched it like end to end in full. That's a great pick.
Yeah. Okay. I'm up next, and it's tough because I have like one that I like go to for a lot of these categories, but my war films are so deep that I'm like, I'd rather just let you guys clean it up a little bit more before I have to pick another one. My films set in cold environments are very, very deep as well. So like, I want to narrow those down a little bit. I don't think my football will get picked for a little while. And then performances are so personal that like, I don't really think I need to pick that now. So I'm going to go, and this is my first prop of the day. Kelsey kind of already tipped her hand to it, but I'm going to crack open a cold one here. And like I said, this is inspired by draft beers, but I'm gonna have to settle for the bottle today. But I'm gonna go for my beer pick, my drinking pick, just because I think this is the category where I only really have 3 films, and I'm like, you know what? If I let it go back around, Chad could take one of them, and then I'm left with 2 to decide between. And while I would say this is my third favorite of the 3. I think this is the one that when I think about drinking and bars, and Chad, you've done it to me so many times, I'm going to finally get my revenge. Not really, no, because we both love this film. And I'm picking this as like a champion of it being in this first round. I'm going to pick The World's End. Just because when I think about the 3 films I have on my list, and if the other 2 don't get picked, I'll bring it up later. When I think of like this category of like what film just embodies the spirit of what it means to like go to the bar and drink with your friends better than any other, this is the one I think about. The other 2 films, one is like more about like alcoholism, and the other is like kind of a pseudo comedy about alcoholism. This one's more just about kind of the fun of it, but also showing a little bit of the danger of like, when are you going to grow up versus how much are you trying to cling on to your past. But it's just a great sci-fi film as well. I mean, it's supposed to be a buddy kind of drinking bar crawl movie, but it ends up being so much more. And I really like that. I like how it kind of just envelops into something completely new and fresh that you didn't expect it to when you're just watching the initial, part of the movie play out. I think of the Cornetto trilogy, this is the one when I first watched them, I was like, this is my least favorite. And every time I've rewatched it, I've been like, this might be my favorite, to where now I would probably rank this at the top of those 3 just because I love it so much. I think the actual acting and performances are so good. The camaraderie between friends and the drinking, the way it is, filmed and edited, all those sequences with the bars and the taps and the beer, it just makes you have those like scrum-diddly-umptious little bubbles of ecstasy when that comes to drinking, if you are a responsible drinker. And again, this is a disclaimer: if you were watching this and you're struggling with any addiction issues, we're here for you, we support you, and we do not promote it for those who are trying to recover. But if you are someone who is into that whole bar scene and stuff, like I really do love just what it has to say about the culture, and how it just romanticizes it in a way that's still pretty safe. So I will let Chad talk about it next, because I know this is probably one that I sniped from him, and I am very sorry. I always feel bad sniping something I know that he was going to probably pick next. And honestly, if he wasn't behind me with 2 picks, if he was only behind me with 1, I might have risked it. But I was like, you know what? He has 2 picks behind me. I'm not going to risk it. So I picked The World's End. Chad, any thoughts?
I mean, look, I had the choice to do 4th pick or 5th pick. I chose 5th pick to get 2 picks back to back. So I took the risk. But yeah, it was absolutely going to be my first pick. But I do have backups. And I was going to say, if I was able to pick it, I was going to say the quote: "Leave a light on, good lady, for though we may return with a twinkle in our eyes, we will in truth be blind, drunk." Yeah. So I adore this movie. I adore this whole trilogy. And I think this one is probably the most underrated out of all 3 of them. And I feel like it's because, you got so many highs with the first 2 that you get to this one, and then people are like, is the Cornetto trilogy, or is this stuff really good anymore? And I don't know. I don't understand why people don't like this one. I think it rules. I think it has some, like you said, some of the best editing that Edgar Wright's ever done, with, doing the taps and all that. But yeah, it has a lot of like positivity for drinking, and showing that like, some of the best times that you can ever have is just going out with your friends and getting drunk and just trying to achieve something, like doing the Golden Mile. And but it also shows the dark stuff because the main character is very sad, and that's why he drinks, and that's why he wants to recapture this kind of magic, that this like lost thing that he's like, I'll never get this back. And so it's very sad, but it's also incredibly funny. It's kind of like the perfect bar movie. This definitely was going to be the one I picked. I do have backups, but this movie is freaking perfect. I think it is the bar movie like of all time. Casablanca may be a better movie. I prefer The World's End, to be honest, but it's one of those things to where it's like this one is definitely more about the bar for sure. So
Yeah, it's much more about the drinking culture, but Casablanca might be a better movie set at a bar. So I think it's a very interesting. That's why it's an interesting category, because it could go any which way, and we could even have films about just drinking in general that aren't even set at bars, which is going to be fun to see if they come back around. I also wanted to bring up the editor's name, Paul Mackless, such a good editor. Edgar Wright's kind of go-to guy, so I wanted to bring that up since we are high on the editing. Kelsey, any thoughts on this one? Have you seen this one?
I haven't seen it, but I just watched the trailer and it does look very interesting. And I love an Edgar Wright film, so
You do.
definitely one that I would have
Yeah.
to check out.
Oh yeah, Dan, any thoughts on The World's End?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this is the worst of the trilogy, and Edgar Wright made two better films after this, and two better films before this.
Okay.
This is sandwiched in between his filmography, and it's really the worst of his filmography. Unfortunately, I don't think it's even close to the top 3 or 4 or 5 bar movies ever made. And I just wanted to add this, and I'm 11 years sober.
Yes, Dan. Woo!
Mm.
That's awesome. Congratulations, man. But yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's. But I think that's also kind of why I dig it too. It's a little out there, and that's probably why, honestly, what Chad said, like why people do tend to have that opinion that it falls off, because the buddy cop movie is a little bit more conventional of a genre. The zombie movie a little bit more conventional of a genre. This one, getting futuristic sci-fi, is not everyone's thing necessarily, especially in this context and tone. So totally makes sense, but I respect it. Kerri, any thoughts on At World's End, or The World's End? Sorry, what is At World's End? Why do I keep saying that?
That's the Pirates. The
That's
third.
Okay,
Pirates.
that's why. In my brain, I'm like, I keep wanting to say At World's End, but
Yeah.
another great film that I don't think would really fit in any of these categories. But
Yeah, I love this movie. It was on my list. It was one of the first ones I thought of. I probably wasn't gonna pick it because I figured that Chad would probably snatch it up before I got to it, and my bar movie list is like pretty wide. So yeah, I'm glad someone put it on the list. It's a fantastic movie.
yeah. All right, Chad. Well, you do get 2 back to back. This is usually the position I'm in when Chad snipes something I love, but that is the beauty of draft day, and I'm excited to hear what you have back to back, Chad. What are you going to pick first?
Well, now I'm just going to go with my other bar movie.
Okay.
And, I don't know if this is going to be a boring pick just because of what you just picked, but I'm going Shaun of the Dead. As my
Okay, double cornetto back to back.
Yeah.
I love it.
Honestly, I was sitting there. I was like, The World's End. If someone takes The World's End, I'm finished. Do you hear me? No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, oh shit, I could go with Shaun of the Dead. That's totally about the bar stuff. And so that's the thing, is like it's a zombie movie, but like all they want to do when the zombies, strike, is they're like, where's the safest place we can go? Somewhere where we can chill, that's familiar, that we could just kind of hang out and, wait for this all to blow over, is literally what they say. They're like, we'll go to the Winchester. And at first, it's a bad thing because Liz is always like, you always just want to go to the Winchester and drink. That's all you want to do.
Yeah.
And then, later it's like, we're going there. That's our safe haven. So it becomes like their place to survive. And so there's a bunch of scenes of them drinking, in like, future like plans, shots, but then also them there. And so the bar, in fact, like the bar catches on fire at one time and like, shoots a lot of the zombies. They use the jukebox in the bar to great effect. The pool sticks in the bar. So yeah, pretty much like if you're not picking The World's End, I feel like this is like the second like best. Like it's not as much about the bar, but like the Winchester, I feel like in cinema like history is one of the most famous bars now. And honestly, Shaun of the Dead ranks very highly, at least for me, but I think for a lot of other people, as like one of the greatest like horror comedies ever made. It's kind of a perfect movie. So and I just love the story of how it got made, and how people fell in love with it, and how it was just like an homage to Dawn of the Dead, but ended up being like one of the greatest things of its own type, kind of like how Scream ended up being, in a way where it's like I'm homaging all of these things, but I'm going to end up being the best of the thing that I'm trying to make. So yeah, Shaun of the Dead to the Winchester.
I love it. The back-to-back Edgar Wright, back-to-back Cornetto trilogy picks. Yeah, I didn't have this on my list because I just didn't think of it as like a movie about drinking, but it is set at a bar for a very significant portion. The bar does play heavily into that set piece, so I think it totally works. It's a great pick. Even though it wasn't on my radar, I love the film, obviously, and I think it's solid. Kerri, any thoughts on Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, this is again one I did not think of for this category at all, but as soon as Chad said it, I was like, yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, it works.
I guess I just wasn't really thinking about the bar as a setting. I was more thinking about drinking. Yeah, I love this movie so much. I think it is still my favorite Edgar Wright movie, but there's not a movie of his that I dislike.
I
So
agree. Cool.
Um,
Dan?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
I
you're
wouldn't. I wouldn't have thought of this movie as a bar movie. I don't know it as well as obviously Chad, so I wouldn't have. I don't have this on my list. I thought it was a zombie movie, but I guess I don't know the movie that well.
It's all good. No, I mean that's the fun of this draft being so wide open. Kelsey, have you seen this one of Edgar Wright's, or is this another blind spot?
No, but again, just watch the trailer and it looks really, really funny.
Yeah.
You'll
All right,
like
we got a
sure.
great movie night coming up, Kelsey, in the near future. It seems we're crafting
I love
a
it.
heavy watch list. I love it. Maybe for Halloween, you should add this to your 31 because this is a good time of year to do that, or that is a good time of year to do this. Sorry,
Sure.
I'm already halfway done with the Modelo. Okay, Chad, your back-to-back picks. What is going to be your first pick of this second round? You've already taken your beer pick, so what is going to be your next draft pick?
I'm gonna pick my cold movie.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here like between like three hardcore, but I think I'm gonna go with one that I feel like uses the cold maybe the best or one of the best. Okay,
This might be this might be a double snipe where I snipe something from Chad and Chad might snipe something from me right now. I'm waiting to see.
I don't know. I don't actually know if I've ever heard you talk about this movie, so I'm not sure if it is
All right,
your big pick, but
it's not done. We're good.
I'm,
We're good.
and I'm going with another horror movie. Does that help? Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go with John Carpenter's The Thing.
Right.
Yep.
Go
I
ahead,
had
talk
that
about
on my
it,
list.
Chad.
Sorry.
No,
I was just like, I don't know what the reactions sometimes are really fun, but I'm just
you
like,
didn't snipe the one I want, but I'll explain why I wanted that one opposed to
That's
this
one of the
Just-
top two I had.
This
That
is
was one of
definitely
my top
in the
two.
list. Like I think this is a good because I think it would have gotten taken by one of the four of us. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
I have a very complicated relationship with this movie because there's one time that there was like two times I had a debate against it. So I'm sitting there going in trying to find flaws in this thing, and it's just a really great movie. So it's just I lost. Well, wait, no, I won one, and then I lost the other. But it was a whole '80s thing. But anyways, we won't go down that road. But I have loved it before that, and then I found my love again after that of it, and I just think it like uses the cold isolation perfectly to create an atmosphere and tone of paranoia, and it's just one of the creepiest movies ever. The practical effects are just unparalleled. I don't know if I've ever seen practical effects as good as this. And they completely hold up. It's one that has just like a really interesting story because like there's no way this other one can be picked. Halloween came out and was like a masterpiece, and then this came out and it's like John Carpenter's second masterpiece. And while I do prefer Halloween overall, I think this is like very close behind it. And like the cold, all of the kills are just really creepy. The tension, just like the blood test scene, is really scary. The anticipation to find out who's who. Kind of like the theme of you don't really know who the people around you are, and they could be total strangers posing as someone, kind of like a changeling lore a little bit there as well. It's just one of the scariest movies ever made. A lot of people talk about this movie as one of the best films ever made, and you don't get that a lot with just like horror movies in general. So, and I think I know. I think I might know the one Dylan's going to pick next, and it's also on my list. This movie is incredible. I feel like when you pick a great movie, you just really like, I got to talk about this for a long time and say a lot about it. But then I'm just like, other people might have things to say, so I'll let you guys talk. But yeah, I had so many other great ones that I hope the other like two that I was thinking about get picked, because I feel bad not picking them, but I can only pick one. And I feel like the graphic, I'm like, Shaun of the Dead and then The Thing. I'm like, oh, great so far. So hopefully I'll get some other really great ones too.
Yeah, this is one that you're right, I haven't talked about on the channel, so it's gonna be exciting to formulate my opinion. No, I love this film. This one rivals Halloween. It's not quite there for me, because Halloween is just, for me, like just one of the untouchable masterpieces. But it's just such a great film, especially using that cold environment. I mean, every single scene you are grasping for another layer of clothing to pile on because you are chilly, and that is the best type of cold movie, is the one that can just make you shudder at the bone. So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's incredibly designed. The effects do hold up, and I think because they are dated, they hold up even better. Like, they just have this physical tangibility to them, this tactility that is just so. That jump scare is just still next to Jaws, my favorite jump scare, where he's putting like it's like the petri dish or whatever, and then just like that moment every time I know it's coming, and I still jump out of my seat like a little girl. So yeah, I love it. Kelsey, you had a big reaction to this one. I assumed you wanted it, or it was on your list, and you've seen it, so that's great. That's a win. What are your thoughts on this one, Kelsey?
Yes, it was definitely on my list because it was one of my first time watches during my 31 Frights of Halloween. And it just immediately came to mind because because of everything Chad said. Like, it really utilizes the atmosphere of the cold really, really well, that entire film, and everything that he said about the effects, spot on. My only complaint about this movie was that one too many dog deaths for me.
Yes.
One too many dog deaths for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, but I can hear everything that's going on. But I'll be right back.
So we will not talk shit about you. Don't worry.
They were dogs.
They were dogs that were taking
real dogs.
Over. Yeah, but like, it's tough. Because like the monster's in the dog, but it is still a dog.
Now I just feel bad because I hope like Kelsey has a lot more other cold movies to do. But
I'm sure.
There's like a whole like Christmas season, so I imagine.
Yeah, no, Kelsey, I think will be just fine. But Kerri and Dan, any thoughts on The Thing, 1982?
Yeah. It's in my top 5 horror movies of all time. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's one of the scariest movies I've ever watched in my entire life. John Carpenter is a great director, and this is a great movie. I had this in my top 2 for cold movies. So hopefully somebody doesn't pick my top 1 in cold movie, or I'll have to figure out something else to get.
I don't know. I have the next pick, and I can tell you it might be going cold, but we'll see. We'll see. I hope it gets to you, Dan, whatever you want. Kerri, what are your thoughts on The Thing?
Yeah, I love this movie. It was my number 2 and my number 1. I have a feeling if it's not snatched up by Dylan, it's going to get snatched up by Dan. And now I'm like, I should have picked it first. I have backups, but there is one movie that I was clearly like, this is the best. That's okay. The Thing is, amazing. Absolutely amazing. The special effects, like you guys were talking about, are just so phenomenal. And the just the feeling of dread through the whole movie is like it just stays there the entire time.
Yeah. All right, so we are gonna move on now to pick number 2 in round 2. Now, if there was ever a way to swap and trade draft picks, which we have never done on the show, and I don't think we will ever introduce. I know Matt was considering it as a bit for this episode because it is a draft inspired one. This would be the time where I'd want to just switch pick 7 and 8 with Kels, and you'll see why in a sec. But I'm getting a little cold for a second. Let me just put on my jacket. Sorry. Is there a draft in here? Is there a draft here?
Oh,
it's getting a little drafty in
This
here.
is corny. How old are you, Dylan? How old are you? You're not that old. This is really corny. This is really corny.
26, and I'm still a little chilly from this draft. Anyway, I'm gonna go with my cold pick, obviously. But the reason I really wanted pick number 8, Kels, I really wanted to be in that third slot because this is pick number 7, but I really want to pick number 8 because when I'm not picking what I think is the best film of each category, but what embodies this category the most. And when I think of a draft, when I think of a movie where every few minutes the characters say, "Shut the damn door! It's too cold. The breeze, cold. Shut the damn door." I am picking for pick number 7, but I hoped it would be 8. The Hateful Eight, made by one of my favorite directors, Quentin Tarantino. First off, that whole prologue set in the cold with that beautiful Ennio Morricone score, with the cold, snow-laden plains and the what do you call it? The wagon, I guess they're in, like a horse-drawn carriage, I guess. The carriage, yeah, they're like going through the cold landscape, and they're picking everyone up to go to this cabin. There's nothing like a great cabin movie, but it's even greater when it's not a cabin in the woods, but a cabin in like the middle of this frosty environment. And it's one of those movies my dad and I quote all the time whenever like one of us leaves the door open to let the dogs out and it's cold outside and there's cold air coming in. He's like, "Shut the door!" And like it's a movie that my family loves so much. But it really does only work, I think, only work as well as it does because of the cold environment, because every so often you see like the real personalities characters come out when they're trying to get everyone to shut the door because the cold wind's coming through, and just the idea that they are so isolated because it's cold, because it's snowy, and the moments when they go out into the snow, what drama that builds. I'm a big Tarantino fan, one of my favorite directors, and I think just the way he's able to play with dialogue and able to also bring in so many interesting conversations with gender and race, involving like the main character being a black man, there being only one woman amongst all these men, and the different conversations you can bring out of that, and just the humor in it. There's actual genuine horror in it. There's mystery, there's suspense. You're trying to figure out who's betraying who's going to get killed next. It's just one of those great amalgamations of so many different genres and things that I love so much. So The Hateful Eight for me, when I just think of like cold drafts and windy drafts and needing to like stay warm, this is the movie I think of, is that door busting wide open and that cold wind just rushing in. I know there's another big one that hasn't been picked yet that I think people were thinking I would pick, but The Hateful Eight, gotta rep Tarantino when I can. And for me, like when I think of cold draft, this is what I think of. So The Hateful Eight, one of my faves. Chad, I have talked about this one with you, I know, on your channel for the Tarantino ranking, but I don't remember, where did you rank Hateful Eight for you? Is this one of your higher ranked, lower ranked Tarantinos?
I think this was my lowest rank.
Wow. Okay, so you're not necessarily the biggest fan of this one.
Yeah, I don't really love this one. I think it's really long. But that being said, I do think, because I know that they took this movie and they made it into like a little like series on Netflix where you can watch it in smaller doses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dylan's probably not a fan of that, but
no.
I do think like with a really long movie like this, where it kind of to me feels long, I think that might be kind of a better way to watch it. But I've never really tried. I think I've only seen it twice. And the second time was for that ranking, and then it just I haven't really vibed with it. Although for a draft like this, where it's like the cold pick, I could totally see it. And I know a lot of people are like big defenders of that movie. And if it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, it's not going to be a bad movie. There's a lot of stuff in this that's very, like, the tension in it is really incredible. Like, you explained a lot of all the stuff where you don't know what's going to happen next. And when it does, it's like really surprising. A lot of great characters in it. So there's a lot of positives for this movie, even though it wasn't really on my radar. There's still like two other like huge ones that I'm like are like the best movies I've ever seen. This isn't one of them, but it's still a really great pick. Although highlight of Dyl Pickle Movie Network 2024 for me is now you putting on that jacket and Dan being like, "This is really corny." Like,
the worst part is this is the most subtle of the props so far.
That's just like that made my night. That was so funny.
Need to bundle up. There's a draft in here. But I will also say, I think when I first watched this movie, it was New Year's Day, I guess it would be 2016, because it came out late 2015. And I remember it was a very snowy day, and we almost couldn't make it to the theater. I was with some friends, and we like went to the theater, and it was like 3 hours, but we were so cold because it was so cold outside, and we went in. It was like a nice toasty theater, and like we watched this movie, but it made us cold, but also warm, and it was just a perfect environment, I think, to watch it for the first time. And I've just always stuck with that, and I watch it every winter when I have that kind of atmosphere. So it is one of those things that I think if you are if it's a snowy day and you have time to kill and you want to just sit around and almost kind of do nothing for a little while, I think something like this that is paced a little slower, and another long cold-based film that might come up later is also concerned. Like, I think those types of movies are great for cold environments, because you can just sit with them and really eat away the day with them. So I think it's a plus, but also could be a minus depending on pacing. And if you're in the mood for something really like high energy, this is not necessarily going to be it. But Kerri, you I don't think I sniped the one you were thinking of, so you're probably glad. But what are your thoughts on The Hateful Eight?
Yeah, this is a really great movie. I actually double checked, and it is my lowest ranked Tarantino movie, but it's still 5 stars on Letterboxd for me. And I think it's a great movie. I think I just don't typically go back to it because it's one of the least fun of his movies. Like, all of his movies are very dark, obviously, but a lot of them have either moments of like levity or of action that kind of take away a little bit from how dark they are. And this one is just, especially it ends, I think, in a very dark place. So just not personally my favorite Tarantino movie to watch, but again, fantastic movie and a fantastic pick, especially for this category.
Thank you. Dan, what are your thoughts on Hateful Eight? You look like you got reactions.
This is like my least favorite Quentin Tarantino film. I'm a massive Westerns fan. I don't know if you know that. I hate this movie. I can't stand this movie. When you said this movie, I was like, thank God he picked this one and not the one that I wanted, because I was like, I didn't even have this on my list. So I'm glad you picked something that it wasn't even on my radar. I just don't like it. I saw it in whatever that special. What was it, 70 millimeter or whatever?
With the prologue and the intermission and all that. Yeah.
And it just, I don't want to see every pore on somebody's face, every sweat and every hair on somebody's. It just seemed boring to me, and I wouldn't even have thought of it as a cold movie, to be honest.
Okay, no worries. Not a cold take. I know it's not his most popular, but
Dan is very cold on that movie. Yeah,
Dan's cold on my list so far, so I have to win him back with my third pick. But I have time. Kelsey, what are your thoughts on The Hateful Eight? Have you seen this one?
The only Quentin Tarantino movie I've ever seen is Kill Bill.
That was a good one. It was a good one to see.
Which is a solid one if you're going to see any of them, I feel. I don't know. I always feel like very like his movies are aggressively made for a demographic that isn't me, and that's okay. Because if you are the demographic, love that for you. But just like another director that I have to hit, where I feel like I just have to like marathon all of his movies.
I feel like there's like one or two that I feel like could kind of bridge that gap a little bit for you. One of them is Jackie Brown, which does not fit any of these categories. Another one might come up in another category, so I will not mention it. But like those feel like more accessible ones that you could like kind of bridge off. But a lot of his movies do feel a little bit more catered to like the film bro stands out there. But hey, Kerri's got all 5 stars, so like, demographics.
I was just about to say, Kelsey might really like Jackie Brown because it's so unlike any of his other films. Yeah, and it rules. So see, Dan likes it too. So
but I definitely think his westerns will probably not be your thing, and maybe some of his crime stuff, like I could say it now, like Pulp Fiction and Grindhouse, might not be your thing. But there is a war film that might be, but I'm not going to bring it up. Up yet. But yeah, Kelsey, your pick is next. I'm going to take off this jacket just because I'm starting to sweat. It's actually not not drafty right now. So Kelsey, what are you going to pick with your?
It is the middle of summer. Okay, so I don't think the only other category that I was worried about was my alcohol movie, and since Dan already picked his, I don't think I have to worry about Kerri taking. Like if Kerri takes the one that I really want, like I definitely have backup, so it'll be okay. So I think I'm going to take my draft day performance pick right now.
First one. Let's go.
because I really, really want this one because it's the only performance that I was really, really drawn to and obsessed with after I watched the movie. And that is Griffin Newman as Rick the intern.
Yes.
Okay, to be fair, like Chad and Kerri said in the beginning of this, when I watched Draft Day, I was watching it for the first time. I was quite surprised how much I liked it a lot because I think it really it was. I think the main reason why I liked it was because of all the negative things that I had to say about sports movies at the beginning. Like it kind of really was a sports movie that defied all of those stereotypes. Like there's some mystery elements to it. There's intensity. For some reason, like I just found myself as someone who has no idea how to draft a football team or about fantasy football or any of that. Like
You're
I
doing it right
found
now, Kelsey.
myself, thank you. I found myself caring so much about like where these players ended up and what teams and for who and the trading, and like I was like, wow, they really did this movie so well because I was like so like on the edge of my seat the entire time. And I just think that this lighthearted, very comedic performance was just like a breath of fresh air in the midst of all this intensity. So I really, really liked his performance a lot, especially like opposite, the other actors in the movie. He just felt like very real and very, very funny. So I really wanted to take him.
There you go. Great rep because, we got a lot of Schmodown fans here. So a Schmodown competitor coming in the second round, Mr. Downtown Griffey Nooms. So Chad, Kerri, and I actually went to a live Schmodown event where Griffin Newman won a match against Josh Horowitz. So it was really fun.
Oh,
we got
wow.
to watch Griffey Nooms play in the Schmodown. And I am a weekly listener of the Blank Check podcast. So if you guys don't know Griffin's podcast, Blank Check, listen to it. It's amazing. If you are thinking of a movie, they might have covered it. Look it up on Blank Check, and if they covered it, listen to it because they cover different director filmographies every week, or every like month or two, and they go through every film in that filmography. And I love his podcast with David Sims, so I highly recommend it. It's cool that Griffin went first. I have not met Griffin, but I've like been in the same room as Griffin. That's all I'll say. I ran into him in an audition, but I was a little starstruck, so I didn't say anything. But yeah, Griffey Nooms, great guy, and really good performance. I love the moment, especially with the laptop. Like that's some heart. There's some heart in that moment too. So I think there's some nice moments to be had comedically and sincerely. So yeah, Chad and Kerri, you just watched this today. Kerri, what are your thoughts on Griffin Newman's performance?
Yeah, what a great pick. And he really was like a kind of an outstanding performance in this movie with that's like star-studded cast. And he's like very believable, and yeah, like you guys talked about that kind of heart-to-heart moment he has with Kevin Costner's character about the laptop. That's such a great moment, and he does some really great acting there.
Yeah. Chad?
This is going to be my pick. So
this is my number one as well.
I'm sorry, guys.
But I understand because I think Kelsey was drawn to the same thing that I was, where I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of like, seasoned people in here. And I'm trying to remember any of the other like Downtown Griffey Nooms performances I've seen. And I haven't seen that many. And so this is the one that I was like, watching, and I was like, wait, where is he? Oh, there he is. And then I got really excited. And then I was, and then I just, every time he popped up, I was just like, yes, Griffey. But then I loved his character where he's just kind of a pushover, a new guy, right? And, people are yelling at him and stuff. And, he's just trying his best. And he's just like, I don't know where anything is. But and then he's just trying his best, just doing his job. And then when he gets to get the laptop, and he's my whole life was on here. And then I was sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, he's actually doing a better job at acting in this role, in this scene, than Kevin Costner is. Because I was like, he's sitting there like, why did you have to throw my laptop and stuff? And it's like getting me really sad. And then Kevin Costner's like, well, I was just really mad or something like that. I'm like, oh, this is not your best. This is not your best work in the scene, Kevin Costner. And you're being shown up by Griffey Nooms here. So yeah, I was sitting there like, it's going to be a weird pick, I think, because it is such a small role. But I was definitely going to pick him, and but I definitely have backups. But I'm so glad that Kelsey got it because it is a quality pick, I think.
Yeah. It's a good pick. And I want to also shout out, if you haven't seen The Tick on Amazon, it's a great show.
Yeah.
He is like one of the co-leads of that. And he's also the voice of Pip in Disenchanted, the sequel to Enchanted. So shout out Griffey Nooms if you're listening. I don't know if you would be, but you are definitely more likely to be listening than any other actor of Draft Day. So like, that's cool. Dan, any thoughts on Griffin Newman's performance?
Yeah, I've seen this movie numerous of times, and I thought I remembered him having a different, like kind of a different path to this character. And when I finally seen the end of it, rewatched it yesterday, I guess it wasn't that important to me what his path ended up being in the end of the movie. I for some reason thought he was going to have a better like journey through the movie, but yeah. Chelsea, what's the name of the show that you host on Mondays?
Kelsey? The Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. Yeah.
Yeah. I was okay. Just wondering. Never mind.
Well, okay.
Oh no, did I do something wrong?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you did something wrong, but hey, whatever.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll see. All right, Dan. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. There's a certain actor from the MCU who is in Draft Day. I see what you mean. Okay. It's okay though. Just because you cover a Marvel podcast doesn't mean you have to pick them. But Dan, are you going to pick this person?
Kelsey, I'm picking on. I'm just picking.
I didn't know what you meant at first, but now that I get what you mean, I was like, oh, I see what he was doing. I was like, when has Kevin Costner ever been in the MCU? But now I get you're going the other route. You're saying you should have picked an actor. I get it. Anyway, Dan, you're up next. Are you going to pick that actor? Or are you going to pick another?
Well, guy? I'm going to hold off on that right now, but because I know my cold movie is not going to last another pick if I don't pick my cold movie now. Okay. And hey, do you guys want some True Coat? Hey, how about that True Coat on them cars? Hey, Maji, come on over here, Maji. Hey, man, it is cold. Shut the door. Hey, there's a dead body in the snow over there. Wait, put that body in the wood chipper. I mean, oh God, I can't believe it fell to me. Fargo. Oh my God. I cannot believe nobody picked this. I am so happy that I get to pick Fargo for my cold movie. You guys weren't on that episode of My Life, My Love, 50 Years in Film, but my number one movie of 1996, Fargo, and it is a masterpiece. Francis McDormand, William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi. These guys are on their A game. And this movie is set in frigid Fargo and North Dakota and Minnesota. I mean, you feel cold when you're watching. You're literally like, I feel cold. It might be warm out or what. You just feel cold watching this movie because that's how cold it is. Watching them people in this movie, it is freezing cold. And I love Fargo. I could watch it any day of the week. 5 days on Sunday, five times on Sunday. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just making up stuff now.
That's great.
I'm sorry, Kerri, if I picked Fargo and you were going to pick Fargo.
Was that your pick, Kerri?
Yeah.
Oh, see,
so
as soon as Dan said I'm gonna pick Kerri's thing, I wrote it in a different film and I had to cross out and write Fargo. I thought Kerri was gonna go somewhere else. She might still. I actually didn't have Fargo on my list. I don't know why.
Are you kidding me?
I've only seen it once and it didn't necessarily leave an impact on me, but I do have to watch it again. I will end up watching it again for Picture This. But yeah, I when I was listing all the movies I was thinking of, I had 7 movies on my list and this wasn't one of them, but it's a great pick. And there's still one big one that I thought was gonna get picked already, but it just shows how deep cold movies really go because there's so many great ones. But Kerri, what are your thoughts on Fargo? Because you clearly wanted it but didn't get it. But what
it was very smart of Dan to pick it now because it was gonna be my cold pick. It was my number one. I think it's one of the most perfect movies ever made. It is one of my favorites. And I just like Frances McDormand in this movie. I don't know. I just admire her so much. I love her character and everyone's acting is just absolutely phenomenal. The story is just so engaging and it's so darkly funny. Yeah, great pick. It was smart of you to pick it now.
I knew it. I just knew it. I said to myself, she's
Yeah.
picking Fargo. I have got to pick Fargo. I'm going to go away from performance and go with cold.
And you're also getting a lot of the fans of the show too, because now it's branched out even further than just the movie too. So that's good. You're not picking the show, but you're picking a pick that kind of embodies Fargo.
And if you haven't seen season 5 of Fargo, oh god,
yeah,
so
it's good. Kelsey, any thoughts on Fargo?
Is Fargo the show with Juno Temple? Am I thinking something different?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but because I love her so much, I've been meaning to get around to it. I also had a list of movies where I was like, these are definitely some movies I should watch in preparation for this draft day. I never got around to Fargo, but a professor in college showed us clips from Fargo to watch Frances McDormand, her performance in that, just because it's like a masterclass just watching her perform. So I have seen clips from it, but I've been meaning to get around and watching the full thing.
Nice. Chad, any thoughts on Fargo?
Well, first I wanted to warn Kelsey, if you're watching for Juno Temple, she's only in the last season 5. So you're gonna have a little bit of work to get there.
But each season's a different story,
it's a standalone. Each one is
just watch season 5, right? If you want
to.
The other ones and
gotcha.
Watch it if you want it. The other ones are great. If you like what you see in season 5, go back and watch the other one because they're all standalone, but they're all great in their own way.
And the whole show is, but season 5 is very heavy, so prepare for that. But Fargo, the movie, is also very heavy. And when I was doing a cold list, it was the first movie I wrote down. I went The Thing because I was like, I'm doing a little bit of a horror thing here. And I was like, I think The Thing might still use the cold the best, but the next best would be Fargo. And then there's one more that I think uses, other than the one that Dylan says, there's still one more after that I think, Kerri should probably pick unless, she has something different. But Fargo, I think, probably has, if it's not the greatest like screenplay ever written, it's one of them. So it's really up there. Like, I don't think there's any flaws in that thing. It really rules. The movie super incredible. I love like the dark comedy, the setting. My buddy John has family from up in that general area.
Fargo,
and he says that Fargo is basically a documentary because that's how good they are at doing those accents.
Frances McDormand has a knack for that, being in films that could just be slices of life captured on camera. So,
yep, very true.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch it.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that. Picture this episode; it'll be a while from now, but I adore this one. I think it's pretty perfect, and it's just like so like the crime in it is really really interesting and really gets under your skin. Yeah, creative. So Steve Buscemi, amazing.
One of the best. All right, Kerri, we're back to you. Now, here's the thing. Everyone but Kelsey has picked a cold film, so you don't necessarily have to take it, but you do have 2 picks. And we've kind of been foreshadowing that there's still one out there for you to pick. But it is your pick, and you get 2 of them. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. I might actually, because I don't think... I have 2 really strong... Well, and I get 2 back-to-back, actually. So maybe my next one I will just go ahead and pick my cold. But... I think I'm going to go with my draft day performance first. This is tough because I do think there were a lot of good performances here. I'm going to get the one that Dan alluded to that I think he thought Kelsey should pick. And that's Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get what you were saying now, Dan. At first I was like, what are you going for here? And I was like, oh, duh. Okay, yeah.
Vontae Mack. He plays Vontae Mack.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and I think there were actually quite a few very small performances in this movie that were actually fantastic. But Chadwick he still has a very small role in this movie, but it's a little bit bigger than some of the other ones I was thinking about. And I think just the scene where he's on the couch and he finds out that he is the very first draft pick and he's just in such shock is just absolutely incredible. And then I love his character, just the way he is so confident when he talks to Kevin Costner. Like, if you think about it, he's playing this college football player who's talking to I don't know. Actually, is he like the hiring man?
Sonny Weaver is the GM of the Cleveland
The GM.
Browns.
Okay. Yeah, right. The GM of the Browns. And he's just so confident and like and it's just kind of lighthearted and joking, but this is like, you can tell also such a big deal to him. So I thought he just gave a great performance. And yeah.
Just emotionally moving performance, just has so much gravitas. And I think especially in the wake of his passing, this is one of those things where, like, when I'm doing this retrospective and I'm looking 10 years back, like, this film I think hits harder because of his moments, because we've lost him, and there's that extra added sentimentality too that I think was obviously present 10 years ago, but even now just hits even harder. So I think this is, if Griffin is not like the fun, inspired, quirky kind of first pick that like a lot of us were going to go for, I think this is kind of like the other, like, very obvious first pick of like, this person is just giving it their all. And like, of all these actors, I think this is, especially because he hadn't made a big career for himself at this time yet. It was still pre Black Panther, pre 42, or 42 was a year before. But like, he was still breaking out, and I think, and Get On Up was also this year, so like, he's in the midst of a breakout, and to see 10 years later looking back, it just gives that much more to the performance, I think. So it was a great pick. If you didn't pick it, it probably would have gotten snagged probably in this next round by somebody. So Dan, you were alluding to it. Yeah.
I didn't think he would last. We're going around twice now. We're on top of our, she's about to pick her third round, so I didn't think he would last into the third round. So I just was shocked when I seen Kelsey on the panel. I said, oh, she's going to pick Chadwick Boseman because she's Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, or Dylan's going to pick Chadwick Boseman. One of them is. And I thought, oh, I ain't going to get Chadwick Boseman. And then he fell to me, but I couldn't, there was no way I wasn't going to go cold first, because that meant more to me than Chadwick. I had somebody one pick higher than Chadwick Boseman in my performances.
All right. Chad, any thoughts on your namesake, Mr. Well, not your namesake, but you share a name.
Yeah, I was about to say, rest in peace. I will always now forever be the second coolest Chadwick in the world, because of Chadwick Boseman came out.
1A, 1B. Yeah, it's not 1-2. It's 1A, 1B.
Okay. I'll take that. Yeah. And just one of the best actors, just like embody like every role, just do all the accents and just like really crush it. Of course, he's in this. He's just doing a great job. Just doing exactly what's asked of him, and you always just he lights up the screen. You just always love to see him, and I definitely had him up there, and I was considering him, but there's a few of them, like, because I said Griffey was my number one, and then the few of them after that I was like, so it's like, like trying to figure out, but yeah, this definitely narrows it down. And rest in peace, love him to death.
Yeah. Great pick, Kerri, and now you're gonna get another pick, which is also going to be a great pick, even though I don't know what you're picking. But what are you going to go with next? You got football and draft day off the board. So now you're just going war, cold, and beer.
Oh, man. I'm so torn here. I'm going to go with my cold movie. I'm between one that you guys have been, I think, alluding to, and one that's a little bit more of a fun personal pick. I'm going to go with the fun personal pick.
Ooh, okay.
And that is The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cute. Nice.
I'll keep with kind of nothing else. I think in my list is going to be family friendly, but I'll keep with one other family friendly movie.
Yeah, once we get into like war and drinking beer, it gets a little less family friendly. So you gotta start it off cutesy and then get it a little deeper there. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I just adore this movie. I think it's definitely one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. It's such a joy to watch. I think we should make more movies like this, where it's the Muppets and then just one actor or actress giving it their all, totally serious in the role. Like Michael Caine is just amazing in this, and the Muppets, of course, are the Muppets. They're just so lovable, and I just everything about this movie. I absolutely adore, and it's cool that it's Christmas time, and I feel like there should be at least one Christmas movie on this entire draft. You know.
Yeah, because I mean that's a cold time of year. I love it. It's a great pick. I think of all the Christmas picks you could have picked, this one I think is one of the best, if not the best, of the cold set Christmas movies. Because there are some that are not. But yeah, I think it's a great pick. Love it. Yeah, nothing really else to add. It's just so good. The music's great. They need to also make more movies just of Muppets and single like celebrity casting. Like that'd be so fun to just do that. They could do that every year, once a year, and they would never run out of ideas. But Kelsey, as a Christmas queen, I have a Christmas queen, a Christmas fiend here. But Kelsey, as the Christmas queen, what do you think of the Muppets Christmas Carol?
I was introduced to the Muppets Christmas Carol, and I'm glad that I was, because it's very, very sweet, very, very cute, and not the Christmas movie that I thought was going to be represented in the cold category, but I'm glad that it was. So great pick.
Yeah, in honorable mentions, you could share what you thought might have been, unless you pick it yourself, because you're the last one to pick a cold film. But Chad, the Christmas fiend, we have the Christmas queen, now we have the Christmas fiend. What do you think about Muppets Christmas Carol?
Well, of course, I love the movie. I actually, there's like Kerri and I, like, well, you know, but mostly because of me, like I make sure that we watch like a certain Christmas movies every year. Find the best times to put them on. Maybe not the best times, but you know, we always get them done. And this is the one that I feel like she had seen a lot before I did, and she showed it to me, and then I was like, you know, wow, this is incredible. And we just ended up, now it's just a staple. We just watch this one every year, pretty much. I don't think we've really skipped a year, because, like Kerri said, it's just so amazing. Just like all the Muppets doing a lot of the, like, you know, like Gonzo's Charles Dickens, and you know, just Kermit is Bob Cratchit, and then you know his little boy is Tiny Tim.
Yes.
And it's just, this is one of the ones where you're like, this might be the best version of that story. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, you know, there's a lot of great ones out there, but you're like, this isn't definitely in the running. Like, it could have been really dumb because it's like, it's Muppet. So it's silly, but you know, it ends up being like, you know, because of that brilliant performance from Michael Caine, you have, you know, it's just, it really works just all together. And it's just, the songs are great. It's just brilliant. The only reason that I didn't go with the Christmas movie or really put one on there is because I've done Christmas draft days before. So I'm like, I'm going to try to branch out a little more on my list, but I love this pick for Kerri. And now I'm wondering if the other one I was thinking about is going to actually even get picked.
I don't know. I mean, it was my number 2, so I'm wondering if it'll get represented at all. But hey, I love how deep this category can go, especially adding all the Christmas repertoire. Dan, are you a fan of this pick, the Muppets Christmas Carol?
You know, I haven't seen this since it came out in theaters back in 1984, 85, in there somewhere, right? It came out around the.
It's a 90s movie, isn't it?
Oh, was it? I thought it was the 80s.
80s or not, like somewhere in that 20-year range.
Yeah,
I guess.
I haven't. I don't go back and watch the Muppet movies. I know
Me too.
there's this whole thing of people loving these type of movies. I just don't find myself going back and watching the Muppet movies. But I did remember seeing this, and I really liked it at the time. I didn't even have this on my list.
That's fair. All right, so we are moving on to you next, Dan. You already got your bar movie, your drinking draft, and then your cold draft. So now you still have your war, and then your football, and your draft day pick.
Yeah, I think football, for me, you guys aren't going to pick my football movie.
Okay.
You have no clue what the best football movie really is, to be honest. So you guys aren't going to pick. And war is just so deep that I'm not going to pick war. I'm going to pick my performance from and I'm glad that both Kelsey and Kerri went with other people, because my swerve worked, and neither one of them picked mine. And I'm picking Kevin Costner. I'm picking Sonny Weaver. This guy, he gives a great performance in a sports movie. Once again, he's done golf movies. He's done baseball movies. He's done cross-country running movies. He's done bicycle climbing mountains with a bike movies. He's done all these kinds of sports movies, but he really puts himself out there as this character. I feel like you really feel what he's going through as a person in this movie. It's like you feel like you could put yourself in this guy's shoes. It's the difficulty that he's got going on. And when he gives away his draft picks at the beginning, and he's got everybody and their brother get him crap, and he's got people coming at him from all sides. I mean, Kevin Costner really brings it in this movie. And for a movie about the draft, it's got a lot of character and a lot of heart and but Ivan Reitman does a great job in so many different ways to make this movie an underrated football movie. I would guess it's technically football, right? So, yeah, I had to go. I swerved and made Kerri pick Chadwick Boseman so I could get Kevin Costner. So, yeah.
Well, your strategy paid off. He's playing his own little draft day inside baseball today. No, I love it. It's obviously a pick that I feel like if it didn't get picked, it might feel a little weird just because he is the front and center of most of the film, which also means he has the most room to fail, but also the most room to succeed, and he has the most room to shine. And I think he does anchor the film really well. And you said all the greatest things about him. Just gonna say right now, it has nothing to do with this draft, but go see Horizon. It's great. But yeah, it's a great performance, and I'm glad you picked it because I know you are also a big fan. Kelsey and Kerri, you already picked your actors, but Kelsey, was Kevin Costner in your realm of potential actors to pick?
He was because I was looking at, if I didn't get Griffin, I really wanted to get someone who I just genuinely believed throughout the entire film was just the guy that they were playing. And I never doubted for a second that this just wasn't just a general manager of a sports team. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a completely believable, captivating performance through and through, and is exactly like you said, Dyl. He anchors the whole thing, and you have no choice but to root for him the entire time. So he did a great job. It's a great pick.
Yeah. How about you, Kerri?
Yeah, I agree. And I think someone had to pick Kevin Costner in this movie. He is the lead. And he gives a really solid performance throughout the entire movie. And it's really great to see everything his character does pay off at the end. I know this is best performance, not best character, but I think how his performance helps you be rooting for him in those final moments of the movie.
Yeah. Chad, any thoughts on Kevin Costner's performance in Draft Day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hit or miss on Kevin Costner a lot of the times. It just depends. I like him in a lot of baseball movies for sure. I like him in Dances with Wolves. We talked about that one and stuff. But there's a lot I haven't seen. But in this one, I was still kind of on the fence about it. There was a couple times, like I said, in the Griffey Newman scene, I was like, this scene's not your best work, Kevin. But I'd say I'm mostly 75 to 80% on him in this movie, and I feel like he did do a great job. Mostly, yeah, to keep everything together, with his the death of his father, trying to manage the team, trying to juggle all this stuff and make all the calls and whatnot. I don't feel like it holds a candle to Brad Pitt in Moneyball or anything like that, but yeah, I feel like it's close. And you really get into the rooting for the character too. You kind of want to see that, and then when he's making the deals and stuff like that, you're all that stuff, and then yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
Can I just say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I think you learn a lot about him too when he goes in the closet and then he comes back out of the closet. So I think those moments are really good too.
Absolutely. All right, Kels, you're up. You've got your football and draft day stuff taken care of. So you also have a cold movie, a war movie, a could be a Cold War movie. And of course, your beer/drinking/bar movie. So what are you gonna go with, Kels?
Well, now that I don't have to worry about my alcohol movie being picked, I don't really think I have to worry about any of my picks being picked at this point. But I think I'm gonna go to my war movie
Okay.
because I don't think anyone's picked a war movie
You're the
yet.
first one. You're the first one. And I
Okay,
hate this because
great.
I've been waiting for people to pick away at it so I can narrow
Yeah,
it down.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm next, and I'm gonna have to pick one. So I'm like, okay. Go ahead.
So I might then take one off your list still. I don't know.
Hopefully.
But I'm going to go with one of my favorite performances by one of my favorite actors, Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm going to take The Imitation Game.
Nice.
Really, really like this movie. I really like that it's about World War II, but not in like the front lines kind of way. It's more about like the behind the scenes of a group of people that helped, win the war. And I obviously really like, Benedict Cumberbatch is like fantastic in this film. I go back and I rewatch this film any chance that I get, and I love it every single time. So this is my pick for
Kelsey,
war
I believe
movie.
I was in the same class as you when you watched this for the first time, correct? In acting
Yes.
class?
Yes, you were.
Because it is one of those acting performances that you can dissect every little, line delivery, every little tick and quirk of, because he does bring so much to every little detail. I think the performance is the best thing about it, but it is also just a very engaging war film, all shown behind the scenes. You don't really see any of the war itself, which I think is really cool. A lot of war films are different in that respect, which is why it's such a deep category too, because you have so many different angles. You can go with something behind the scenes, something on the enemy lines. You can go any which way with war, and any war, and there's so many wars to choose from. So that's why it's so deep. But I think The Imitation Game is one of the best. Chad and I just covered it last month on Picture This, so if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on it, check that one out. But I do think it's also just a great character piece, a great story about how we shouldn't silence people who are just different and unique and awkward, but also gay voices, also just science in general, which I think is a message that I didn't think we had to share in 2024, but alas, there are people trying to silence science and silence, queer voices and silence actual logical thinking. And, it's a scary time, but I think this is a film that shows that you should still listen to everyone and take everyone's opinions into account. And always root for the underdog. Chad, we just covered this on Picture This, but I'll let you say if you have a few words on The Imitation Game.
Yeah, Picture This 2014 was a very interesting one because I feel like, it was one where we were positive, I think, on like everyone except for
7/8. Yeah, 7/8 of the movies. Yeah.
And like a lot of them were actually very like underrated movies where you're just like, a lot of people have negative thing to say about like a good amount of these movies and that were nominated for Best Picture in 2014. And The Imitation Game, I think, is one of them. And I watched it again because I remember watching it once. I really liked it. I was like, oh, this is really good. Like I didn't expect it, but like I watched it and then it was like, I expected it to be really boring because like some of these movies, I'm like, it's like a biopic. It's a war. I was like, I don't know. Sometimes those are just really dull. And then The Imitation Game just like gripped me. And the second time I watched it, same thing. It gripped me, and then it gripped Kerri, I think. So it was one, especially a lot of the heartbreaking stuff in it. It just really gets you. And definitely go check out Dylan and I talking about that. On Picture This, because we had a really good discussion about it. Like there's one part, I don't want to give away like what happens, but like there's this one part where like a little kid or a young kid like finds out something, and like his reaction to it is like one of the most like heartbreaking like kind of moments in film that I've seen, and it's beautiful and
great,
really good movie, but it's heavy, so prepare yourself.
Yeah, Kerri, he said you fell in love with it. Did you fall in love with it?
Yeah, it's funny because Chad asked me, like, when he first started watching the movies for Picture This, he's like, okay, which ones do you want me to wait for you for? And like The Imitation Game, I was like, oh no, I don't want to see that, because I was confusing it, I think, with a different Benedict Cumberbatch movie. And then he started watching it while I was in the room, and I was like, "Ooh, wait, is this about code breaking?" And then I was like, "Wait for me to watch it then." It is. It's such a good movie, and it's a great pick, and it's kind of incredible. Like, I don't want to say too much, but like how much that group of people, even though they weren't on the front lines, they were probably some of, if not the most influential people like in the war, at least on the Allied side.
Absolutely.
It is really just an incredible story, and then so heartbreaking as well, though, and at times just devastating. Just the things that the characters in that movie go through just by virtue of who they are. But yeah, fantastic pick.
Dan, thoughts on
Yeah,
Imitation Game?
little do people know that I'm such a fan of Picture This that I have been doing watch-alongs along with the hosts of Picture This on the episodes that I'm not on, because I love this show so much. Hoping to maybe get them to get me on more or whatever, or just I guess this is my way of kissing their ass a little bit or whatever. I don't know. But I actually saw all of these films in that year in theaters, I might add. And I think it's a great batch of films. An Imitation Game, Benedict Cumberbatch, Matthew Good, Keira Knightley all give really great performances in The Imitation Game. I think it's a fantastic movie, and I think it's a very understated pick on your part, Kelsey. I never thought anybody would have picked this as a war movie, because there's no actual war being fought in the movie, so I wouldn't have. It didn't even come to mind, So, but I do love that movie, and I love. Because originally, if we have a chat, the three of us have a chat, and I said, all right, this is my ranking, and this is my pick for Best Actor. And it was Benedict Cumberbatch. And then after I rewatched him, I changed that up a little bit. But it doesn't mean he isn't fantastic in the movie.
Yeah, his performance is so good. I love it so much. Great pick, Kels. But you didn't help me narrow it down. It was on my long list. But you know what? I gotta rip the Band-Aid off. I gotta rip the hat off too. I gotta put this guy on real quick. All right, so
wow, costume changes.
I know, right? Yeah, I not as corny, I promise. But yeah, it was hard. I don't think anyone's taking my football, and I don't care about my performance at this point because my top two have been taken. Not that I don't care, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not as urgent to get it because I still have some other good ones to choose from. So I got to go with my war film. And again, I've been kind of picking films that I don't necessarily think are the best of their category, but are at least the ones that like are the quintessential ones of their category. Like World's End is not my favorite film about drinking, but it is the one that feels the most apropos for that category. Same as A Hateful Eight for me. It's like what I think of when I think of the cold, drafty wind. And this is the film that I think of when I think of just war films and how to make the quintessential war film, because really a war film should be an anti-war film if done right, because the whole point of a film in a way is to show the dangers of it, to show why it is something to be feared and something that we should have real consideration on how we get involved in and all that stuff. It's never meant to romanticize war. And I feel like a lot of the time, especially with modern technology, there's this idea of making everything look so spectacular and grand that it's like, sometimes we watch war films and we're like, that was badass. And it's like, wait, should we be calling a war film badass? And that's what I love so much about a film from a long time ago. Another picture, this film, a winner of Best Picture from 1930. My pick, All Quiet on the Western Front, which I think is just the quintessential war film. I think we don't get a lot of other war films about the combat without All Quiet, because it showed how to just like film a war sequence, because that was just something that is very hard to envision, like putting together, getting the set and the budget and the costumes and making the explosions happen and making it all feel real, while again not making it feel romantic. And I think that's something that I didn't like about the new one, is that a lot of people are like, oh, that badass score, and I'm like, no, there should not be anything badass about this. Like this is scary shit. And I think this film did so well, such a good job of showing the war without making it seem cool or engaging, but still making it entertaining enough that we actually want to watch it, but also just getting that messaging through. I mean, the whole first like 20 minutes where they're all excited to go to war, and then the kids are just being brainwashed because they are just kids, and it's so haunting to see, especially because you know what's going to happen. But it's one of those things that even if you know what the result is, it's still very, very hard to watch. And I don't necessarily remember if it was like an actual draft or if they just signed up for it, but either way, it just kind of embodies this whole idea of the draft and why we shouldn't just be sending people away to die knowing there's no way they're going to come home. Like, it's just such a sad concept to me, and I love a good anti-war film that does not romanticize it. And I think All Quiet on the Western Front, especially because it was made in 1930, almost 100 years ago. Like, in 6 years it'll be the 100-year anniversary, and it still looks great. It still works effectively. The dialogue is clear and audible. The visuals are still crisp and clear, but never romanticized. Like, it's one of those, I think, perfect war films, even though it's not my favorite war film, but I think it embodies what a war film should be and is, and what has kind of set the groundwork for war films to come. So I really wanted to shout it out to a classic film as well, because there's so many war films and so many wars I could pick from, so many different styles of war, like kind of Kelsey's, which is like more behind the scenes, the brains behind it. There's some that is actual fighting. There's some about other countries responding to other countries. There's some set in foreign languages. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick one that I think is just classic and clean and gets its point across in a very effective way. So All Quiet on the Western Front is my pick. The old one, not the new one, which I think is pretty bad, but I really like the old one a lot. Chad, we did talk about this one as well on Picture This, so we're going a little bit redundant here, but any thoughts to add on that we haven't said then, or you have thought about since then?
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't really had many new thoughts since watching it and talking about it on Picture This, but I do think it is an incredible movie. I feel the same way, where I like this one a lot more than I like the other one. The other one was kind of like a middle kind of a thing, and then I watched this one and I was like, yeah, this one's really getting like the anti-war down. Like, I just love the whole arc of the one character who has the teacher basically doing the rah-rah, go defend our country and, stuff like that. And then he goes to war, sees how, shitty it is, and sees how, like, little soldiers are even kind of like cared about. Like, people like lose sight of like what's actually important, like human life. And they don't really, all they care about is like winning a thing. And then, he goes back and to the classroom, and he's like talking to the teacher, and the teacher wants him to talk in front of the room, like, one of the troops is back, and he's gonna, tell all you like how great it is to go defend your country. And he's like, this fucking sucks. He doesn't say that, but he's basically something like that. And I just love how the teacher gets like really annoyed, and then it's like, well, you told him to be honest about going to war and stuff like that, and it really does suck. And I wasn't necessarily like this before I started doing Picture This, but after, because a lot of the Best Picture movies are like big war movies, I found out that I definitely gravitate more to anti-war movies. If it's something that's kind of, glorifying parts of it or something like that, I definitely am like, I don't know about that one. Yeah. So this one definitely worked for me.
Yeah. Dan, as someone who claimed they're the number one fan of Picture This, what are your thoughts on All Quiet on the Western Front, the OG?
Yeah, I've seen it multiple times, and I think it's one of the best silent movies I've ever seen. And it really, I read the book and then I watched the movie, and I'll tell you what, it really does capture the degradation and the dismal nature of war, especially back in trench warfare, which is like, I wouldn't wish my worst enemy to be involved in trench warfare. I mean, it's brutal, brutal, brutal war. And this movie really captured it. Even though it's a silent movie, it really, you read those lines and you're just on the edge of your seat. What's the next line going to be read? What's the next thing someone's going to say or do or whatever? It's a great movie. I guess I like the new version a little bit more than you guys. I didn't realize you guys hated that one as much as I thought that one was fantastic. But
yeah, I know we're in the minority. I know a lot of people like it. So
yeah, but yeah, this is a great movie. Great pick. Didn't expect this to be your war movie pick, to be honest with you. I think I had it at 14 on my list.
That's fine. Yeah, I just have so many, and I was like, you know what, this is the most like straightforward, like it's just quintessential war film for me. It's just so hard. It's such a deep category. Kelsey, were you in the history class with me that when we watched this, or were you in a different history class? Mr. Hurley, freshman year? No? Okay.
No, I did not have Mr. Hurley.
Okay, gotcha. Because we watched this, and we watched like a scene from it in that class, and I remember being like, "That looks interesting," and then I didn't watch it in full until Picture This, but I wasn't sure if you had seen this one or
Mm.
not. Had you seen this one or
Mm-mm.
no? No. Okay. I was gonna say
Mm-mm.
it's pretty old, so yeah, I don't expect a lot of people to have seen it. Especially this day and age. But Kerri, have you seen this one? You might have seen it with Chad, but yeah.
Yeah, I did see it with Chad for Picture This.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic movie, and it kind of, I don't know, for me at least, like probably a very closed off view, but I tend to think like, oh, there weren't really anti-war for like films or media before a certain period, which is obviously not true. Like anti-war sentiment has existed for as long as war has been around. But just to see this very early example, and like, yeah, I think like you talked about, Dan, just this type of warfare especially was so devastating, and this is such this movie, you know, came out relatively close to World War One. And I do think it is just one of the best anti-war movies ever.
There you go. All right, Chad, you're up. You've gotten 2 horror films off your list, a drinking one and a cold draft one. Are you going to continue the streak, or is this where the streak ends? You got football, performance, you got your war film still on the table. You got 2 now. So what do
You
you
know, yeah, war movies are very deep. I'll wait. I'll probably save that for last.
Okay.
I think what I'll do is I'll sandwich the movies with the performance. I'll pick a performance, and then I'll do my football, and then I'll do the war at the very end.
Sounds good.
Yeah, for draft day, I still have no. Actually, you know what? I have 3 that I'm sitting there. This is really tough. I definitely have 3 that I think are actually really, really, really great. I'm gonna go though with the one that I think might actually be the best of the movie because it's more than what Griffey was able to give because his part was so small. And I'll pick Jennifer Garner.
My birthday buddy.
Yeah, honestly, I was just like sitting there watching her performance. I just loved like all the energy that she brought to it. Kind of being like this really like great like businesswoman. Like she's like really like up there in the thing. She's a lawyer, and whatnot. Even though she's dating this guy that she works with, that's like a whole thing.
Sonny Weaver.
Yeah, Sonny. Yeah. But I loved the command that she gave a lot of the times, especially like when she would come in and like not like she'd give people shit and stuff like that. And I forget like the exact like quotes that she did, but especially like the one time that the Mr. guy from Prison Break came in and was like sitting there just like being a piece of shit to Griffey Nooms, and she was like, "Don't ever talk to an intern like that. Like, go fuck yourself," kind of a deal. Like, you can't just talk to people like that. I don't care like what he didn't know about the archives. You go get the archives, idiot. And I'm like, yeah, you go, Jennifer Garner. Yeah, I just think she like really ruled in this. And honestly, she's kind of a lot of the time smarter than Sonny was, where he's just like, should I take Bo? And she's like, you're the fucking GM. Why are you asking me? What are you talking about? And she's like, well, and then she puts it into perspective for him because, he doesn't know what the hell to do because, he's not that great at being a GM, let's face it, because he didn't even talk to anybody at the very beginning. He's like, I'm just going to risk the company's future without even talking to anyone. And then he's got the whole movie. He's got to undo that mistake. And, I think she gave him great advice to actually give make that decision. And actually, that's why we get that great ending. So, yeah, Jennifer Garner rules in this movie.
Yeah, I really love Jennifer Garner. She's my birthday buddy. We share the same birthday. So shout out April 17th, friend. But yeah, she's great in this. She's kind of this great balance to Kevin Costner, even though they are both a little bit more chill and relaxed personalities. But she does definitely match his energy really well. Yeah, and is just such a great presence in every film she's in. I wish she was in more these days. Kelsey, any thoughts on Jennifer Garner in Draft Day?
Yes, she was definitely on my list because if I didn't get Griffin, I definitely wanted to go to her just because, like, girl power. It's tough to be the one woman representation in a film dictated by men. So I think she really held her own in this film. The one thing I will say, oh my God, could Kevin Costner and Jennifer Gardner have less chemistry? That is just the one complaint I will make about this movie. I was like, this weird B plot romance is so unnecessary and so unbelievable. I hate it. I hate it. Literally,
Oh.
I was like, the entire time, I'm so sorry. I was like, he could be her father. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's flirty.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah,
That's
there's
the
definitely a
one
lot of
complaint.
stuff going on in the film that I don't think you need that B plot, but I think they're both charismatic enough actors that they make it work. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Dan, thoughts on Jennifer Garner?
Yeah, I mean, she was my third pick if Kevin Costner or Chadwick Boseman weren't on the table for me. I was going to pick her third. I really do like. I feel like that if you think about business and you think about the corporate world and you think about executives, they do have a little bit younger girlfriends sometimes, and just because of the power of the position. So I think it makes sense in the context. He's the general manager of a football team, and his like cap person in charge of the cap and the money and that he gets into, so I think it makes sense in the context of the movie actually, but I understand from the female perspective where that maybe it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I had her the third on my list. I was going to pick her if Kevin Costner wasn't available.
Nice. Kerri, any thoughts on Jennifer Garner?
Yeah, it's funny because when Kelsey said she's young enough for him to be her father, Chad and I actually we started watching this movie like a couple weeks ago, and then we didn't have time to finish it. We stopped, and then we rewatched it today, but we kind of skipped through a few of the beginning parts. And I think Chad just forgot or wasn't quite paying attention in the beginning. But halfway through the movie, he's like, isn't she his daughter? And I was like, no, she's having his baby.
That is so funny. Oh, yeah. Then she gets pregnant. You just reminded me. I hate it. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go on.
I was like, why? I was like, why aren't they having like a scene where they're talking about his dad and her grandfather and stuff like that? And then I was just like really confused.
Yeah.
She is great in the movie, but yeah, she was like my number 3 pick. Number 2 or number 3 pick, mostly because like of that lack of chemistry between her and Kevin Costner. Like every scene they're in together, like there's like one scene where they're holding hands and it just looks so strange and uncomfortable. It's not even necessarily an age thing, because there are definitely actors who can pull off an age difference and still have good chemistry. I think it's just it was an odd pairing or something. I don't know. Maybe that subplot came in later in the movie or something. I don't know.
No, it was right off the bat. They were talking about. Do you want to talk about the elephant in the room or whatever it was? Right off the bat. I mean, that was the very first thing in the movie. And that she was basically pregnant, and she wanted to talk to him about and he brings it up in the conversation right off the bat. But to think about like guys like Al Pacino and Bill Belichick and Robert De Niro, these guys, when you're powerful figures and celebrities, you tend to get younger girlfriends sometimes. It's happened more and more and more in society.
There you go. I hope Leonardo DiCaprio isn't watching this draft. All right, Chad, what's going to be your first pick of the 4th round here? You alluded to taking your war film last, which would mean this would probably be your football pick, but it is your pick to do with whatever you please.
Okay, I'm gonna do my football pick, and it's a movie I love, and so it's probably not a movie that a lot of other people love unless you're in the cult. So
Just say the
anyway.
title because I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna pick a movie that I adore, that I think is incredibly funny, and
Cool.
it's an Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, that's the cult you're talking about. Okay,
It-
okay, yep, I got you.
Yep, Sandler
I know what you're
Cole,
talking about.
Shabadoo. It is The Waterboy.
Okay.
I was sitting there thinking, I was like, there's not a lot of football movies. I do have others on my list that I was thinking about doing. But then I was sitting there, I was like, if someone said, Chad, throw on a football movie right now, this would probably be the one that I go to, because I think it does football extremely well. I think it's incredibly funny. I know a lot of people don't like Sandler's performance and the voice that he does. I love a lot of the voices that he does. I'm just a big Sandler fan. So it really works for me. I love Bobby Boucher. I think Kathy Bates is incredible in this as Mama. I think Fairuza Balk is great as Vicky Valancourt. I love Henry Winkler as Coach Klein. And I just love this story about just a guy who it's kind of like Finding Nemo in a way, where it's like, his mama doesn't want him to do anything that will cause him to get hurt or, just not, be safe and whatnot, or experience bad things in the world. And yet, he's hurt by that because he's not able to go to college. He's not able to play sports and do things that he might excel at, even though he likes wrestling. He likes a lot of kind of like the more violent sports, but she's like, no, you're special. You're not able to actually do any of the stuff because of maybe like your mental capacity, or just you're just too sweet of a guy. And he ends up going behind her back, because what your mama don't know won't hurt her. And then it's just one of the most, I think, uplifting movies, because you do have that arc from Mama, when she's like, I was holding you back this whole time. I think it's totally earned. And then I also think it's one of like the funniest movies too. I love quoting this movie with my dad. It's one of those movies where, it's the, this is the best tackle I've seen since Joe Montana. It's like, Joe Montana was a quarterback, you idiot. I said Joe Montana. So it just incredible jokes. And I just love the concept, the weird Sandler concept of guy who has been so repressed that when being picked on, he's got all this bottled up aggression, so much so that he ends up just being like the greatest tackler like you ever seen. Or I don't even know if that's a real position, tackler, but tackle, right. And then the scenes of showing him running at people with putting the fear in their eyes and tackling them is just so like the contact football playing, I think, is some of the best filmed contact football stuff. And so I just love watching the games. I love watching all the different stuff of him envisioning different stuff. And that's how you envision, that's your tackling fuel, right? So I don't know, I could talk about this a long time. So I love this movie, obviously, The Waterboy. I don't expect anyone to like this as much as I do, but I was like, this is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, if it helps, I haven't seen it since I was very, very young, and I remember I think it was probably around middle school, and I tried to watch this, and I really didn't like it. So I want to revisit it now when I'm a little older to see if it works on maybe me now that I'm more mature. Yeah, I want to revisit. That's really all I can say. It's like the same with Air Bud and the same with Remember the Titans. It's just a football film. I realize I'm not very well versed on football films. So, Dan, you are though. What are your thoughts on The Waterboy?
Yeah, I have actually 20 football films on my list.
There you go.
And Waterboy was number 8 on my list.
Oh,
But
yeah,
little known
Very
fact.
specific.
Little known fact. I live in a town called DeLand, Florida. I'm about 25 minutes west of Daytona Beach, Florida. And guess what film was filmed in my town that I live in? The Waterboy.
Nice.
The Waterboy was filmed in the football stadium that is that's shared by the high school and the college, that Stetson University, that's here in DeLand, Florida. They got so much money that they were able to reverberate the entire stadium so it doesn't look anything like it looks like in the movie. And they also filmed in the Citrus Bowl, which is the I think it's Ascari Amphitheater Stadium or something now. I don't know what it's called now, but that's in Orlando. But yeah, my friends are in the crowd. One guy's wearing like a lime green shirt. You see him? He's a buddy of mine. I had one of my buddies is an assistant coach on one of the teams. So I have a lot of friends that are extras in the film. And yeah, I actually do really like The Water Boy. I think it's one of Adam Sandler's better films, and it's just heartwarming. And I'm not the biggest Adam Sandler fan, but his stuff, Happy Gilmore, Water Boy, some of those ones early on in career were just like he was hitting hit after hit after hit early on in his career. Now he's doing a bunch of junk, except some of his drama stuff ain't bad. Hustle and Uncut Gems are really good, but not to get on an Adam Sandler rant. But
Kerri, are you as big an Adam Sandler fan as your husband, or do you like The Waterboy?
I'm not as big an Adam Sandler fan as Chad is. I definitely have like my childhood favorite Adam Sandler movies. The Waterboy is not one of them. It's one I think I only saw within the past year or so when Chad was doing his watch for his ranking on his channel. I had it on my list because there are honestly actually very few football movies I've seen all the way through. But I definitely, it's one I wanted to leave for Chad because I know he loves that movie.
Yeah. Kelsey, have you seen The Waterboy?
Haven't, but did just watch the trailer because I like to be in the loop. And I will say it looks like very quintessential football film. Like it looks very like zero to hero plot line. So I can understand this pick definitely coming from Chad. So it's a good pick.
Yeah, great. So we're gonna move on to pick number 2. I'm getting rid of the war hat because, like, we're done talking war films for me. Just give me a quick second.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
here we go. Harry Potter. Is that Harry Potter thing? Are we doing something involving Harry Potter?
No, that is the NFL draft sound.
Oh, that's right.
When the commissioner
Little
comes out.
Giants. Is he going to go with Little Giants here?
No, I'm not. I just wanted to rep my Giants because we're now at the 2 picks in my draft, which are going to be football-based picks. This one being my football movie. Listen, I've said I am not an aficionado on football films. I have seen a few of them. There's one I'm actually just not legally allowed to talk about. But this is one of my like sentimental picks from my childhood. One that I grew up loving. I had a little childhood crush at the time, which is appropriate because she's my same age. So like as I've gotten older, I've also kept that crush in my adulthood, which is great. But I am not the biggest fan of The Rock. I don't think he's a great actor, but there's one performance of his that I really, really like. Kelsey, what are you're making a face?
Nothing. I'm ready.
I am picking from 2007. The Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Madison Pettis team up movie, The Game Plan, which, listen, I have not watched probably since 2007, but it was a film I loved as a kid, watched it a few times as a kid. So I probably haven't watched it since like 2009 because I remember watching it on Disney Channel many times after. It's the number one reason why if anyone in my party has an allergy, I will make sure to like really hammer that home at a restaurant because it has one of the scariest allergy related scenes in it. That's dark for like a kid's movie. But again, like, listen, I was a 9-year-old when I saw this for the first time. I hadn't seen a lot of football movies, hadn't seen a lot of movies with The Rock. I don't think he was even in a lot of movies at that time yet. And he's really, really, charismatic. He's this bachelor. He's very wealthy. He doesn't care about a lot of things. And then, of course, when this, young daughter comes into his life from an ex-wife or something, I think it's an ex-wife or an ex-one-night stand, he has to take care of it. And what does that make him? It makes him a softie and a lovable guy. And listen, it's cheesy Disney, ear-to-ear grinning, as cheesy as it can be. But listen, I really like it. And as I said, I had a big crush on Madison Pettis when I was a kid. I wanted to marry her when I'm older. Probably not going to happen. She's much more famous than I am. I probably won't be able to do that. But The Rock, never given a good enough performance since, in my eyes. Jumanji came close, but like I'm not the biggest Rock fan, but I still really like this performance. So listen, it's a sentimental pick. I don't have a lot of picks for football, and the only other one is probably a cliche, but I wanted to go a little bit more personal. So I'm going to stick with the game plan. Dan?
I thought for sure when you said The Rock, I said, oh, I know what he's picking. He's picking the Gridiron Gang. Nope.
Couldn't even tell you. Dan, that's the first time I'm ever hearing of that title. So
you never heard of the Gridiron Gang?
No.
Oh,
listen, I football and me in terms of movies, over the head. I sit down on Sundays to watch football, not football films, but I'm gonna now watch a lot of more. Air Bud Golden Receiver, Remember the Titans, The Waterboy. I got a list. That some great friends recommended to me, and I'm sure you'll recommend to me because you have 20 to recommend. So, Chad, what were you gonna say about the game plan?
Well, I was gonna say, Dylan, never give up hope. Colin Jost is with Scarlett Johansson. It's possible. Okay,
that's very true.
You just gotta get a little bit more famous, and maybe it'll happen.
Never know, Madison. If you're watching, call me.
He's single, but I will say I don't know if I've ever seen the game plan, but I do sometimes. Especially, I know this isn't a Christmas movie. But with Christmas movies, the cheesier a lot of the times, the better. And so sometimes with family films, it can be that as well. So I would love to check this out one day.
Yes. Kelsey, have you seen this? You were making faces. I don't know if this is like of course Dylan's picking this. That's so cheesy, or like, God, Dylan's picking the worst movie, or that was going to be my next pick, even though you've already picked yours. So it probably wasn't that. But
no, I was just so shocked to hear this film from you, Dyl.
Why?
I know. I just thought that it was going to be something so much more like I don't know, artsy or important or something, and you went with the game plan.
What? I haven't picked anything too niche, just a 30s war flick, in black and white. I'm kidding.
Exactly. No, but I think that I agree that this is definitely one of Dwayne Johnson's better performances. He also came out with a movie right around this time, also called like The Tooth Fairy or something.
Yeah, that one I haven't seen. Is it good?
I mean, I thought it was great.
Dan's like, nope.
Well, I saw it when I was like a child. So I was probably like, this is so funny. But I will agree, like, it does have that natural, like, obviously, kind of, like you said, like this grumpy, like stud guy becomes all soft and mature and like grows up, like having this daughter. And
listen, it's such an easy template. Like and also taking like an athlete who's not really known to be an actor at the time yet, like taking this like hard skinned athlete and then like this young little cute little girl from Disney Channel. It's like it's a good, it's a good formula. It works. Listen, it's not Oscar, but it's I've already gotten a Tarantino film, an old war film from the 30s, and an Edgar Wright comedy on my list. I can go a little bit more
all right, fair enough.
I think the word you're looking for, Dylan, is Razzie.
Oh God. I should rewatch this, because if it ends up being a pile of dog doo, then I will rescind my pick. No, I can't do that. It's on the board. I don't care. I'm not changing it now. Kerri, thoughts on the game plan? Have you seen this one?
I have not. It's really funny that Kelsey mentioned the Tooth Fairy, because I was actually sitting here looking up like what were the differences between the two movies, because in my mind I've just like seen the trailers for both, and they both seem like
well, there's also the pacifier, which is Vin Diesel. Yeah. Very similar premise as well. Listen, it's a golden formula. It made money, I think. You're right. I mean, it's on Disney Channel a lot,
I just looked up the movie and then I was like, almost 2 hours. Tighten that up. First mistake.
Listen, the tagline though, half the size, twice the trouble, and she's moving in. Like, come on. It's great. I don't know. I love it. I stand by it. Madison Pettis, give me a call. All right, Kelsey, you're up. What are you gonna go with? You still have your cold draft and your let's drink a draft beer draft.
Okay, so I think I'm going to pick my cold movie. I don't know why. It's just like aesthetically in my head, this is how it should go.
Okay.
And it could also arguably be a war movie as well. But
it's not the Polar Express. I was ready to write it down. Well, because everyone else has picked their cold movies, so I was gonna say it. But I was like, when you said war, I was like, am I missing a very deep angle that I wasn't seeing before?
not the Polar Express. Like Chad said, I wanted to branch out,
You've already talked
do
about it probably like 8 times, so you're good.
Exactly. I probably already brought it up a bunch on this channel. So I wanted to branch out a little bit. And I'm so glad that this movie came to my mind because I love rewatching this movie. And it's The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the
Let's
Wardrobe.
go. Let's fucking go. I love that movie.
Which I think is a very, very well done book adaptation. You cannot say that for, I fear, most book adaptations, but this one is done really, really well. And I just love the atmosphere and the set and the tone and the vibe of Narnia. And when you meet Mr. Tumnus and it's little James McAvoy, and oh my God, the way that I wanted Turkish delights more than anything in my life because
And
of
then
this
you eat it
movie.
and it's like the worst thing ever.
Don't ask me. I've never even had a Turkish
Don't do
delight
it
in
to
my
yourself.
life, but
Live in the
because
fantasy.
because the queen was giving them to Edmund, like I just wanted them. He made them look so good, and I just love how, like, aesthetically, yes, it's like a children's movie based off of a children's book, but there's also some like really something menacing about Narnia, and there's like some really dark tones and all that happening. I think that it's strangely like such like a feel good family classic that I just rewatch
Mhm.
like time
Yeah.
and time again. So
And
this
this was
is
in
my
our
cold movie.
Yeah, this was in our heyday. This was like in my top 5. This was definitely in consideration. I love this movie. I'm so excited to see what Greta Gerwig does with it when she remakes it, because she's adapting now the Narnia books. But I love it. I think it's just captures that world so well. Doesn't try to reinvent it too much. It's just clean, simple, beautiful filmmaking. Everything's practical, which is so good. Some of the animals are digital, of course, but like the actual settings are so lived in. You feels like they're just walking around a real set, which they are, and it's beautiful. They wouldn't do that nowadays. And I hope Greta doesn't do that. But yeah, gorgeous movie. It was on my list. One of the first like big movies that taught me about death, which was kind of sad. With Aslan. But yeah, it was just really great. And we were in like the heyday for it. We were 7 years old when it came out, so like it was just the perfect age to like introduce yourself to a young fantasy film. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad you picked it. Even though pour one out for The Shining, because I know we were all thinking it, but that was the one that was on the tip of my tongue the whole time. But again, I'm not mad that this is its replacement, because again, there's so many good cold movies, and I think of the ones we picked, I can't argue against Muppets Christmas Carol, Fargo, Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe, Hateful Eight, or The Thing. I mean, they're all great. So I think we did good on that front.
I think she picked a good one. There's a lot of good things about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The problem is this franchise just goes to the toilet after this movie.
Right.
The movie is so good. The sequels just stink.
Yeah.
But you got Tilda Swinton, you got Liam Neeson, you got James McAvoy, and then the kids are a bunch of nobodies that nobody even knows who these kids are. But they're surrounded by all these great people. So that's a good thing. You always want to put the big name people into supporting when it comes to a movie that's led by kids like this, and I think this is good. I'm right with you though, Dylan. I think please, Greta Gerwig, please do justice to this. Because I remember the PBS. You guys aren't even old enough to remember. This was on PBS.
I did watch
the whole
PBS.
thing was on PBS. And me and my brother ate this up, back when we were little kids. We were teenagers, but I think when it came out, maybe teens, when we watched it on PBS. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's a good pick. But yeah, never mind. You guys all talk.
Kerri?
Yeah, I haven't seen it all the way. I think like the film version all the way through. I grew up with the old, I don't know if it was PBS or there was like a BBC one or something.
Yeah,
or
whatever
maybe,
one. That's the one I've seen. Yeah, I've seen that one too. Yeah, it's good.
that's the one I grew up with, and I've seen pieces though of Chronicles of Narnia just from like being a person who exists, because it blew up.
Fair.
I mean, it was very popular. And I love the book series. And from what I've seen, the movie, like the first movie, like captures the book really well.
Yeah, I want to think like if Harry Potter isn't happening and Lord of the Rings didn't just happen, I wonder if the sequels would have gotten a little bit more attention, because this was really in the midst of it all. So I just don't know why the second and third movies didn't take off. I mean, they weren't as good, but like I feel like a lot of these franchises, the sequels don't have to be good and they still get a good response. So I don't know what happened. I don't know why they weren't well regarded in terms of box office either. But it's just,
What's
I
his
guess,
name?
the
Didn't
climate.
turn out to be as big of an actor. He's in the show on Netflix now. The guy in the second one, Prince Caspian.
Oh,
He's in,
Benjamin Ben
it-
Bratt.
no, not Ben
No.
Bratt. It's Ben. What is it? He's
Sorry, I'll look it
now
up
you
while
see him
chatting.
in like T-Mobile
Barnes?
commercials. You see him
Oh,
in
Ben
T-Mobile.
Barnes, yeah,
Barnes.
Benjamin Barnes.
But-
Benjamin Barnes.
But
Good
back then, he was like, I think they should have cast a bigger name actor at the time, than him.
Maybe. Well, because like Will Poulter's the new addition in the third one, so like they do have at least, and he's gone on to great things. I don't know. I think Greta's gonna bring something good to it. I hope, and I hope
so.
they get to see it through. Chad, any thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Yeah, I don't actually remember the movie too much because it's just been such a long time, and I don't rewatch it like Kelsey does. But I am due for a rewatch, and I'm not even sure if I've seen the sequels. I think I might have seen the first one in the theater, and I just don't remember it at all. But I remember the first one being good, and I also really love the first book. I don't think I've read past the first book, but I really love that. And yeah, great like Christian allegory. Aslan is Jesus, basically. But I've seen the spoof of it because I had to watch.
Epic movie?
No, was it? No, it was like superhero movie, right?
Maybe. I know Epic movie. They definitely, because it's Aslo and it's Fred Willard as Aslo. The
Okay.
lion.
Yeah. So it was one of those. Yeah. It
Terrible.
probably was Epic movie actually, but yeah, it's that one's weird. But I will say I really do need to give these another watch because I do feel like they were pretty special. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the sequel also was in the same summer, at least, as Dark Knight, Iron Man, Kung Fu Panda. Like, it was just a very busy summer, and I just think it didn't get the legs. If it had come out a summer earlier, I think it would have been okay.
And the
but
third one, I think, went like either to a streamer or went directly to TV.
it
Didn't even go to theater.
Yeah, it might have gone to theaters for like a week or two and then bombed. Yeah, it really did not.
Yeah,
do
they
well.
get progressively worse as they go on.
Yeah.
The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Then they never got around to the fourth one, the Silver Chair. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to get the Silver Chair though,
Hopefully
in this series with Greta Gerwig. We'll see.
we'll see. Well, Dan, you are up. You still have your war film to go and your football film. So, what would you like to pick next?
Yeah, I think I'm golden here because Kerri ain't going to pick my football film, and you guys don't know exactly what the best football film is from your picks that you guys have already made. But it's everybody has the right to whatever they pick. I'm just kidding around, you guys. I'm just playing around.
I know.
But I gotta go with my war film here because I can't believe it fell to me to where my number one war film of all time fell to me. My favorite film of all time, one of my favorite films of all time, and my favorite war film fell to me. So my phone's ringing, but I got it on vibrate. I don't know if you guys can hear the vibrations.
No, you're good.
You guys know, Chad and Dylan know I'm a massive fan of the 70s, and I love movies that were made in the 70s. And one of my favorite directors of all time is Francis Ford Coppola. And I just think he goes through hell and back, but he absolutely makes a masterpiece of a movie. And there's multiple cuts of this movie. And there's a documentary about this movie that was made by his wife, believe it or not. And it's called Apocalypse Now. And I think it's one of the greatest war movies, if not the greatest war movie of all time. And it deals with the guy, a kind of a washed up like sergeant or whatever he is. I forget what Martin Sheen's rank is. And Harrison Ford goes digging him out of a hotel room in Ching Chong or whatever the heck the city there was at the time. Not trying to be. Don't take that the wrong way. I forget Chongqing or what was the name of the town he was in. And they say, hey, I got this mission. You got to go up this river and you got to go find this guy that's went off the deep end. And he went out the left field. And that guy's played by Marlon Brando. And it's also got Dennis Hopper in there. It's got Robert Duvall in there. It's got young Lawrence Fishburne. At the time, if you look at the credits, it says Larry Fishburne, not Lawrence Fishburne. But it's got some crazy visuals. It's got some crazy stuff going on. Quotes that you probably remember, like nothing like, or something about
Smell of
napalm,
napalm.
the smell of napalm in the morning, and it really shows you what a wrong war this was. We shouldn't have been in this war. It really messed up the country in the late 60s and 70s, and I think Coppola really captures what the heck are we doing in this war? Why are we even here? You know what I mean? And he gets a phenomenal performance out of Brando as Colonel Kurtz. I mean, a lot of people want to pick like World War II movies as the best war movie, but I really believe it's Apocalypse Now, especially if you get the Redux, or I think one of the edited versions is really the master cut of this, but it's still a phenomenal war movie. How many times do I have to say phenomenal?
Yeah. I can't wait to watch this one for picture of this, because Chad and I actually in New York, we were talking. I've never seen this one, so this is like one of my major blind spots.
Wow.
Blind spot. Yeah, I've never seen it, and it's one of those movies that I know more about than most other movies, because I've just it's Apocalypse Now, you know, it's culturally relevant. But yeah, I haven't seen it. So that's all I have to add. Kelsey, have you seen this one?
Unfortunately, not.
That's all right. We'll watch it together since I've never seen it. Kerri, have you seen this one?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What do you think of it?
It's an amazing movie. It's a masterpiece. I don't know if I have much more to add that Dan didn't already say, but yeah, it's phenomenal, and it is like the making of it. The documentary is like so fascinating, and I actually want to go back and rewatch it after having watched the documentary and just like pick up on some more stuff. But it's a masterpiece.
And I just want to add one thing. It's on 4K, and all the cuts are in the 4K. And there's a lot of sales going on right now. Dylan, you could probably get this thing at a really decent price on sale on the 4K box set of all of them in one set.
Nice. I'll definitely look into that. Chad, what are your thoughts on Apocalypse Now?
I actually have a lot of thoughts on Apocalypse Now, because it is like one of the most like famous movies ever, not just for like being just a really good movie, but like also just like it's like one of the most like craziest like stories about the film production. And this thing, I'm convinced destroyed Francis Ford Coppola. He's never really made anything. I mean, unless you're one of the big Godfather Part 3 defenders, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like, I don't know if he's made anything too great after this. But because of like the harrowing nature and everything that went wrong in this, it's just one of the most interesting stories. I would definitely say check out the movie and then check out the documentary. Or you can watch the documentary first and then watch the movie if that's the way you want to do it, because it might actually make you like the movie more, knowing more about how it got made, because it's so interesting that it feels like it went so wrong. How the hell did this get made? And then how the hell did this end up as good as it is? It's like they shot like a bunch of stuff. He had to change so much in the way of it, because, you know, like Marlon Brando showed up late. He didn't want to like do anything anybody was actually saying. He wanted to like take his time and actually like, you know, do his own thing. And it's just like stuff like that just kept happening. Or their sets would just all get like washed out. And then you're just like, okay, they filmed it and then they made it amazing in the edit. And it's just like a credit to just how great movies are made in editing. And I do think it is a really good war film. The only thing, my only like big criticism that makes me not want to watch this movie, I might watch it like one more time for picture this, and then I'm not going to watch it again for a long time. And it's because there is, if you're sensitive to this, and I think most people should be, there is a real like life animal murder in the movie that really like I can't watch. It really gets to me. So I'm just gonna probably fast forward over that whole sequence. Other than that, if that wasn't in the movie, I think I would like it so much more because there is a lot to love, especially the use of like the Doors music. I think is incredible because I love the Doors, and I think their use of this is the end is just so good, and it's a really like haunting kind of like hypnotizing movie a lot of the times too.
Yeah.
It's so unconventional. It's really weird, and to be like one of the most like heralded, like, war films from like the 1970s and stuff, you would think it'd be like more conventional, like a Godfather type of thing, where you're like, that's but really great. And then like the Apocalypse Now, you watch and you go, this is freaking weird. And also,
Yeah.
yes, I normally do call Lawrence Fishburne Larry Fishburne, but not because of this, but because of his brief role in Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors.
There you go. So I don't have anything to add, of course, on Apocalypse Now, but I do want to say he has made some great movies since. I just want to bring up The Outsiders and Peggy Sue Getting Married. Are two
I haven't
great
seen
films
The
that I
Outsiders.
recommend.
How about Bram Stoker's Dracula? How
That
about
as well.
Tucker?
Yep.
Tucker, A Man in His Dream.
There you go.
have you
No,
ever
but
seen
definitely
those?
in terms of like big wide notoriety, though, I think like that was his last like big like masterpiece that some people would say. So who's to say he won't have another one in a few months? Who knows? But actually now, according to the news as of today, maybe not. But all right, Kerri, you are up now. You get to round out your draft roster here with your war film and your, what am I missing? Your beer or draft alcohol film, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the hardest category to define, but
Okay, for my war movie, I was trying to decide between more of like kind of a fun pick and my favorite war movie. I'm just gonna go my favorite war movie, which is Life is Beautiful.
oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's devastating, but obviously, but like most war movies are, but I just love the family moments in this movie so much. And just the acting in it is phenomenal. The story it tells over time, and kind of the progression into war, and how things change for the characters. And it just gets me every time. It is just one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that is, it's about the Holocaust, so it's heavy, but it's still got that levity that makes it more accessible, I feel. But it is still hard to watch because it is, still real, which is haunting. But yeah, when we covered it on Picture This, I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but I really did. And it's just one of the best Oscar wins when Roberto Benigni gets up on the chairs and like walks to the stage on top of the chairs. So I really do love it. Chad, another one we talked about on Picture This, but what do you have to say about Life is Beautiful?
It's Life is Beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. Honestly, the first time I ever heard about this movie was just a few years ago, and somebody told me, like a manager at work was telling me what this movie was about, and then I read the synopsis, and it was like, a father who's going to the Holocaust pretends that it's a game for his kid. And then I read that and I went, what the fuck? Like that doesn't work. That's such a crazy, this is too heavy of a subject to actually make that work. And you can't just like pretend it's a game and, all fun and games and stuff like that. But in the context of the movie, the way that they do it, the way they build these characters, and you can imagine, like, you can't imagine this because it's so horrific, but you can imagine, like a father, with a son. Actually, I don't even know if I could watch this now, Kerri, because of having Elliot and stuff. Like, I wouldn't even be able to imagine a scenario like this, like just happening to a fucking human being. But the comedy and the drama, I think, blend so well together. It's almost like a big precursor to, I'll say it, and I'm sorry for this tips to pick, but Jojo Rabbit it is kind of like very similar in vibe to that, where you can kind of put humor against something like as horrific as the Holocaust, and it actually works. And I just never thought that it really would. And then I watched it, and I was like, wow, okay. The humor works, and then the drama works, and when it's devastating, it's freaking devastating. So like the humor doesn't ever undercut that, which I think is like the risk that you take. But I think Benigni nailed it, and it rules. It's such a great movie. Great pick, Kerri.
Yeah. Kelsey, any thoughts on Life is Beautiful? Have you seen this one?
Just watched the trailer.
I knew you were.
It seems to have an interesting tone about it, because obviously it's something as serious as World War II, but it seems very like, based off of what I was getting out of the trailer, it seems very like, almost like lighthearted, like musical comedy for some reason, like with the costumes and the sets and the tone of it all. But we'll definitely check this one out in the future.
Yeah, you got a long list of recommendations now after this episode, which is great. Especially war films. It's just such a deep category. But Dan, what did you think about Life is Beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, I still remember that Oscar moment to this very day, where he's walking on when he gets Best Actor, and he's walking on this chairs, walking on the people in front of him, just walking over the people. It's like one of the most memorable Oscar moments I ever remember. And what a just sweet but very sad movie it is. It just tears you up. This movie does. And I think everybody and their brother knew he was going to win that year. And he's been a one-hit wonder. This is it for him, Roberto Benigni. But if you're going to go out, if you're going to have a one-hit wonder, make it the best performance and one of the best movies of your entire life or of all time. And that's what he did, because he hasn't really done much since, unless you like his Pinocchio, which not a lot of people do.
Yeah. All right, Kerri, you get the back-to-back pick now. This is going to be your final pick here. Your drinking / draft beer / bar pick. What are you going to pick, Kerri?
Yeah, there's a few I could choose here. There's a lot on my list. I think this is a pretty deep category. I'm going to go with a really fun pick, I think, though, and one that I have fond memories of, and that's The Drunken Master with Jackie Chan.
Yes.
And the premise of the movie is Jackie Chan plays a character who the style of fighting that he uses in the movie is like called like drunken kung fu or something, and you have to be drunk to do it, and it's about like the body like loosening up and being able to do these certain moves. And I don't know, it was we watched it, Chad and I think during COVID, and we went through a phase where we watched quite a few Jackie Chan films. And he is just so endearing, and I think this is just such a fun action movie, and very drinking focused, and like kind of a more. They kind of touch on kind of the darker sides of drinking just a tad, but this is definitely a more fun drinking movie.
Yeah, another one I've seen so many scenes of, but never watched the entire thing of. But it doesn't have like one like really iconic action sequence or something.
Yeah, I think it's this. Yeah, I think it's this one it might be a restaurant or a bar, but I might be confusing it with a different one or with the sequel.
Gotcha. Yeah, but I've heard so many good things. I really need to watch more Jackie Chan stuff, because it just looks so awesome. I just looked it up too. Chad, you've seen this one, right?
Oh yeah. I've always loved Jackie Chan. Like I grew up watching stuff like Rumble in the Bronx and a lot of like the Americanized movies. The Rush Hours are some of my favorites. And then when I started to get more into Criterion, they released the Police Story movies, and we watched those, and those are incredible. And they've recently also released another like Jackie Chan series of like Chinese films that I bought, but we haven't watched yet. And I'm really excited when we get around to actually checking those out. And Drunken Master was one that I didn't get on Criterion, but I bought on Blu-ray, and we watched, and it is truly incredible. I love this like style of kind of like what are you doing? Like kind of like you get drunk and you're just like
Loose.
Almost seem like you're gonna fall, but then you just like slaps or something like that. And I've always just loved Jackie Chan's just style of fighting, his like commitment to always like getting like a scene right. He's probably better, actually. He's very Tom Cruise in that way, where it's like, I'm going to actually do it for real, and I'm going to make it look the best as possible. Although I think Jackie Chan is more of a perfectionist, because apparently he will almost kill himself to end up, getting the shot just right. And and so much so, in fact, when he started doing American movies, he started getting really pissed off because of the rules and the union work and just all the stuff that you have to figure out. Like, you have to actually film like at these times. You got shooting hours and you got
safety, yeah, basically
safety rules, right? But they just don't have any of that stuff in China, and or at least more lax. And
Right.
But yeah, Drunken Master rules. I love just like the story of it. I love how they like attributed it that at one point to one of Dylan's beloved characters, Jar Jar Binks. How they're like, Jar Jar is actually a secret Sith that uses the Drunken Master style. And when he's fighting at the end of Phantom Menace, you can totally see that he's accidentally like actually doing smart moves and knocking stuff into, like, he's doing an accident that ends up actually being a good move and doing something great and saving the day and stuff like that. So if you watch any Jackie Chan movies, this is a great one to start with, or just on your journey of Jackie Chan movies, and the action is incredible. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's how we so win. Dan, any thoughts on the Drunken Master?
These are good. I mean, these are good. I wouldn't have had any clue that somebody would have picked this. Jackie Chan is just an amazing action star, and he's really carved out a niche for himself in Hollywood and in Japan, and he stayed relevant all these years. You think this guy can't keep this up in Japan and in Hollywood, but he really has. And this it's fun. If you just want something fun, these Drunken Master movies are fun. But I hear there's something in the works where there might be something, either a remake or a reboot or something with Drunken Master. I heard something not that long ago about this. I just can't remember where I heard it from.
Well, maybe we'll have to stay tuned for that. Kelsey, is this another one you just watched a trailer for? Because I just did.
Based off the trailer, it seems like no other film I've ever really watched. There's very quick zoom sequences. The action looks crazy and really, really fun and comedic, but also very stylistic and very like intense and badass all at the same time. So thank you so much to introducing me to yet another film I'm gonna have to watch at some point.
Love it. All right, Dan, you're up. Your last pick. You get to tell us what the best football movie is, because you've been sitting on it all day. What is the best football movie, Dan, and what are you gonna pick?
Well, okay, so you guys know I'm a film critic. I've been a film critic for 7 years, but I watched Ebert and Roper, Siskel and Ebert when I was a little kid, all the ways up until Ebert passed away, and then Siskel passed away, and then Ebert had to replace him with somebody, and he got Richard Roper. And I followed Richard Roper, and I listened to him, and Richard Roper took over because Ebert got throat cancer and whatnot. And I hadn't seen this movie at the time, and I didn't know about this movie, but I heard him talk about this movie. Then I actually had heard Robert Meyer Burnett, who we all know who Robert Meyer Burnett is, really wax poetic about this movie. And I said, you know what, Robert, would you come on my show, Bleach Your Features? And Dylan knows about this show, but it's a show where I and a guest talk about a sports movie. It could be any sports movie. And we talked about North Dallas 40. North Dallas 40 starred Nick Nolte. And Nick Nolte is an aging receiver playing for a faux Dallas Cowboys type team, but they're the Bulls, the Dallas Bulls, and he's got to kind of wheel and deal, and he's got to work with teammates, he's got to work with the executive, he's got to work with different people, coaches and stuff, and it's really kind of a in-depth like microscope on what the life of a professional football player is, with injuries, with money talks, with all kinds of different things. And if you really want to learn about how difficult the game of football is and how difficult professional football is, I cannot say enough. I recommend you watch North Dallas 40. It came out. Did I say 40? North Dallas 40, right?
Yeah, that's it. I'm looking at it now. I've never heard of this. So I'm so excited. 1979. Yeah. Same year as Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, it came out in the 70s, and it's got some people you may have seen like TV shows or some movies after, in character actors and stuff. But I just feel like if you want to watch a movie that really puts a microscope into football, the game of football, the business of football, North Dallas 40 is probably the best movie you could possibly watch. Wow. And I was glad that it was recommended by Richard Roper, and then Robert Meyer Burnett came on my show, Bleacher Features, and we talked about it and his love of North Dallas 40. So I feel like it's the best football movie ever, but that's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't matter to anybody else. It only matters to me.
I love this show, especially because like I love everyone's different areas of expertise that they bring to the show, and yours is sports movies is like your thing. And so to have you on here talking about this movie that I had never even heard of, and like hearing so many great things, like I'm really excited to check it out. I don't know if anyone else on the panel has seen it or has any thoughts about it, but I'm definitely intrigued to check it out, even though I had not heard of it. So that's always that's always the most fun part of the show, I think, for me.
And who hasn't picked a football movie? Has everybody picked a football
movie? We've all picked. So if you want to like round, because I don't think anyone has anything to actually add.
Well,
has anyone seen this one, by the way? Has anyone seen it? No?
Yeah,
okay.
I knew.
Funnily enough, I haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I knew nobody was going to pick it. I was like, I'm good. I'm golden with my football.
Since everyone has picked, if you want to take this time just to share your others on your list, just because you are the expert.
Well, I have 20 football movies on the list.
Yeah,
but I'm
go through them quick.
Yeah, I'll go through them quick. But another one that was very emotional as a child when I was watching it, because it was a movie. It was a TV movie, but it's still I think it's the second best football movie of all time. For the longest time, it was my number one football movie of all time until I saw North Dallas 40, gotcha. And it's called Brian's Song. It's about the relationship between Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers, who both played for the Chicago Bears. Nice. And one of them was like a star for the Chicago Bears. By the way, it's Billy D. Williams, or it's Billy D. Williams or Carl Weathers. I can't remember which, and James Caan. And gotcha. One of them was like a star for the Bears. And then he recruits this other guy, and he kind of takes him under his wing. And then the other guy has to look after the other guy who ends up getting cancer. Oh, and wow. It's such a if you don't cry watching this movie,
another one I've never heard of, but I'm gonna.
This is both of those guys, Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers, are real life football players that played for the Chicago Bears. I think they're both Hall of Famers, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Brian's Song. Phenomenal movie. I cannot say enough, but that was my number 2, which I knew nobody saw that either. But my list of
you just rattle them off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not going to tell you a story about all of them. Okay. North Dallas for Brian's Song. Rudy. Yeah. I'm a massive Notre Dame fan. Rudy. Remember the Titans, obviously. The Express about. This is a freaking great movie. The Express. Any Given Sunday. The Replacements. Obviously, The Waterboy. The Longest Yard. Jerry Maguire. Invincible. Leatherheads. Varsity Blues. American Underdog, Friday Night Lights, The Program, We Are Marshall, The Blind Side, The Gridiron Gang, what you said, and Brian Banks. Those are all football movies. I recommend you watch every one of them because I think they're all.
I'm gonna watch every one of them because the only one on that list I've seen is The Blind Side, and I do not like it. So I'm gonna watch all the rest of them because I do need to widen my knowledge there. But thank you so much, Dan, for sharing those because I do. We all will share honorable mentions later, but I do not have nearly close to 20. So I'm very glad you did that, and I will check out North Dallas 40. But Kelsey, you're gonna round out your list here with your drinking film, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, drinking film.
Yes. I was so nervous about this category because there was only really 2 that I would have really wanted, and then I only had 2 backups that I didn't love at all. So I'm so happy that all of the drinking picks have been all over the place. So I'm gonna pick like a classic if you were, like, I guess kind of like a preteen or teenage in like the early 2000s. There's like a classic drinking movie about a bunch of kids in high school trying to throw a party.
Nope. So it's not what I
And
thought it was. Sorry.
okay.
You said kids,
And
and I went. Go ahead.
well, it's super bad.
Oh, perfect. Nice. I didn't even think. Yeah, you're right. Super bad. I thought you were going
Yeah.
with. Has Chad picked his too? Yeah, he did. I thought you were gonna pick The Hangover. That's what I thought you were building to. But
Oh,
then you went kids, and I was like,
no,
no, it's good. Talk about Superbad. Because Hangover.
okay, so I picked Superbad just because it's just really, really funny. I mean, it's where Emma Stone got her start, and anything that Emma Stone touches deserves to be praised. And the quotes and the scenes are just iconic. McLovin is just a meme to this day. Like, it's really, really a staple in a comedy, about a bunch of teenagers. And like, obviously, them acquiring alcohol and having this party is the crux of this film. So I thought that it would be perfect for this category. And I'm glad that I got it.
Yeah. You've been really championing this film for as long as I've known you. Well, I've known you longer than this movie's been around, but as long as I've known you in like your adulthood, you've been championing this movie.
Yeah.
So I do have to still check it out though. So I refrain from giving my thoughts. I know Kelsey, I'm the Kelsey of this round.
All right.
But yeah,
all right.
I will watch the trailer and let you know what I think of it. No, but I will probably do this for one of my Dyl hasn't seen that podcast, because I really do think this is one that everyone's like, wait, you haven't seen that? You literally just had that reaction. So I think that's perfect for that show. So I'll do that. I'm doing Aquamarine for that next month for your birthday. I'll do this one as well. Superbad.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I haven't seen Superbad. Anyone have seen Superbad? Have thoughts on Superbad? Dan, you're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on Superbad?
I mean, I love Superbad. I just don't know if it's a drinking movie. I don't know, or a bar movie. I mean, it's a coming of age, raunchy teenager comedy to me. I mean, I don't know what.
Well, here's the thing. I've never seen it. So, but if Chad and Kerri want to veto with you, is it, because I don't know much about the movie? Is it very alcohol centric?
I don't care.
I know the iconic scene where he's trying to get alcohol at the store, right?
Yeah. They buy alcohol from. They try to buy alcohol from the store, but does that make it a drinking movie? I don't know. But it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I just remember it as a raunchy teenage comedy, and you get these guys that become massive after this. Michael Cera, what's his name?
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. These guys become huge. McLovin, this guy's career dives into the toilet after this. He's got a couple things, but not much. But that's all I remember from it. But
Gotcha.
and it's the director is like he is really
Judd
good.
Apatow.
Yeah, Judd Apatow is really good. He's a good director. He's done some fantastic, like This Is 40 or 40-Year-Old Virgin, and some of these Knocked Up and some of these movies. So he's really done some great comedy. So I like the movie as a whole.
I will say, I'm reading the description now, and it does say they plan to stage a booze-soaked party. So like I will say that it probably does count. I just haven't seen it, so I don't know if it counts or not. But
I don't remember. I apologize.
No, it's fine. No, hey, no apologies. It's just that's the fun of this is getting recommendations or thinking about films you haven't thought about in a while. Chad, what are your thoughts on Superbad?
Well, it's interesting as far as like, the type of pick that like Dan raises a good point, but also it's just the fact that I thought about, the more of the bar stuff, but then I'm thinking about like the high school drinking, like party type movies. I feel like that is a whole sub genre of like the type of thing that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I would have if I would have thought about that, then I probably would have thought about more like, Say Anything and stuff like that, I love more, or even like Booksmart, because I kind of hate Superbad. I don't, I've seen most of it, and it's just not my style of humor, like at all. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm in the minority on that, I think, but every time people bring it up, I'm just like, not my style. So
you got it. Kerri, is this more not your style, more of your style?
Yeah,
Someone
about
wanna-
the same as Chad. It's I think Chad and I are one of the few people our age that I haven't seen this movie all the way through either. Actually, I've only seen like certain scenes from it and pieces, which is really unusual. It was so popular when we were in high school. I mean, this was like the biggest movie when we were in high school. But for some reason, I just never got around to seeing it. But it's a great pick.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out because it has been on my list forever. And I will say, Kelsey, to back you up, your best boy Matt did put it in his 5. So that if that says
Oh.
anything about that, so there is at least someone else who was considering it. You're not.
I
on
know
an
I can
island.
always count on him.
But I'm rounding my pick out with the performance, and I had 5 performances written on my list. It was the 4 we've mentioned already, and then my 5th pick, which is my boy Dennis Leary. I'm a big Dennis Leary fan. I think his performance in this is genuinely really good. I think because it's kind of the opposing force of Kevin Costner in the movie, but not antagonistic, which is a really cool balance to kind of walk. Because he has to kind of put up that counter argument to what Kevin Costner is doing, because he is the coach. He should have a big say in his team, but it also shows you just how involved the process is, that you would think the coach is the one just sitting down and saying, I want this player, but there's all these other people involved. But ultimately, the coach, he still has such a big responsibility of a team that he also has to feel like he has to steer the ship. And I really love the dynamic between the two. And I do love when, at the end, when everything is said and done, kind of the way he kind of earns his respect back in the moment. And I love those moments with Dennis Leary and Kevin Costner, where especially the Jacksonville trade, where he's able to make that happen and manipulate that, and the coach is like, like he's giving him his props. I just think it's a great dynamic. I think Dennis Leary always adds that really great kind of dynamic to anything. So big fan of him, big fan of this film and this performance. And I think of these 5, I might have probably gone Chadwick Boseman first or Griffin Newman for the fun pick, but Dennis was my number 3. So I'm very happy to have him on my list and in my draft, rounding out my 5. Any thoughts on Dennis Leary's performance, Dan?
Well, as a coach, you feel like you want to be involved because you got to coach these players, so you really get that side of them, because Sonny's taken over and he's like, hey, I'm the GM, I make the choices. The coach is we have the war room and all this stuff. So you really kind of have to, Dennis Leary really has to be that guy where you don't like him at first, but he kind of comes around at the end, you know what I mean? So it makes a lot of sense. And I think Dennis Leary is perfect in that particular role. Everybody in this movie is really perfect.
It's a really well cast movie, yeah.
I mean, it's like a who's who of Hollywood and sports and whatnot. I mean, when we do honorable mentions, I'll tell you one guy that I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Kerri, any thoughts on Dennis Leary's performance?
Yeah, he is really great in this movie. And sorry.
So Dan's Red Sox Yankees reactions are so good because I'm not watching the game, but I can just envision what is happening right now.
Yeah.
Based on his reactions, and I can imagine it's not good news. But sorry, Kerri, continue.
No, that's okay. I think, like you pointed out, Dylan, his balance here between like he's working with Kevin Costner's character, but Sonny Weaver is like making decisions that Dennis Leary's character doesn't agree with, and is maybe screwing up how Dennis Leary wants to run the team. He just does a great job at like portraying that.
Yeah. Kelsey, any thoughts on Dennis Leary's performance? We just watched one of his in Amazing Spider-Man 2 recently, but he's in this one a lot more and has a more prominent role. But what are your thoughts on his performance?
Yeah, I love Dennis Leary. He was actually in another one of my picks for one of my cold movies, because I love the Ice Age movies.
Yeah,
and
nice.
He is my introduction. What I know Dennis Leary best from is Diego in the Ice Age movies. And
Listen, everyone knew Ray Romano elsewhere. I knew him as Manny the Mammoth. Like, that's our generation.
he's Manny the Mammoth.
And John
love those
Leguizamo
movies.
is Sid the Sloth, and that's what he is.
Sid the Sloth. Oh my God. Yeah, those movies are iconic.
movie.
But yeah,
Yeah,
he
that
does
first movie's so
he
good.
does a really solid job in everything that he's in. I just love that he kind of has this like this edge to him a little bit.
Mhm.
This kind of like almost like menacingness that happens underneath everything that he's doing. So it's a really solid pick, Dyl.
Thank you. Chad, any thoughts on Dennis Leary?
Dennis Leary, yes. He is so interesting because like there was a lot of people that were like tied. It was like I was going to do Griffin Newman, and then I was like, if I don't get him, then I'm going to go this, and they were all kind of tied. I think Dennis Leary rules in the movie. I really liked him. I didn't grow up really. I mean, he's not like he doesn't do like a lot of kids movies or anything, but I didn't really grow up like liking Dennis Leary all that much. And then everything changed when I watched The Ref, which I think is a very underrated Christmas movie that I absolutely love. I actually have it right there. I was going to grab it. It's on DVD.
Nice.
But because you can only get it on DVD, which interestingly enough. Yeah, I've been growing more appreciation of him. So watching him in this was interesting because I have that newfound appreciation for him, and I really enjoyed him. I liked his, when Kevin Costner comes in and he's like, it has to break the news that he gave up like 3 first-round draft picks like for 3 years, and he's like, what, you didn't even talk to anyone. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't. Like, I mean, you can, but like, you're not like a good GM if you're just gonna make these crazy decisions and not talk to anyone. And I just love him like stepping up for that. Just like everything else that he does. There's like one scene where he's talking to Jennifer Garner, and he goes up to her like when she's about to eat lunch, and she's like, I'm busy, and he's like, okay, but it's important or whatever. He sits down, and like she like pours like some chips on her tray, and he's like eyeing those chips the whole time, and then after she leaves, he just starts eating her lunch. And I really like that scene.
Nice.
I don't know, he's just like really naturalistic in the role,
Yeah.
and I think it fit him really well.
Yeah, there's something Kelsey said earlier which I really loved about like everyone. Some of the roles feel like it's just like the actual guy. It doesn't feel like it's an actor acting in a role. It feels like they are the GM or they are the coach. Dennis Leary is one of those guys who, like, in this movie, I would not know he wasn't a coach. He's that naturalistic, as Chad said. That's perfect word for his acting and a lot of the acting in this film. It's one reason why I think, despite Moneyball maybe being like a better version of this type of movie, I think it works really well because everyone just feels like they're in the moment. They are those guys. It's not acting. None of it's really put on. There's some schmaltzy moments, but it really does feel so naturalistic. So yeah, I'm glad we all at least like Draft Day enough to appreciate all the great performances in it. But Chad, the Mr. Irrelevant pick, 5-5. What are you going to go with as your war film here as the last pick in the draft? Big stakes. A lot of movies out there.
I've been agonizing over this like the whole time, and I saved it for last because I was like, I have like 5 phenomenal movies on my list right here, and no one picked any of them. So I'm like, shit, man. I mean, I can do anything I want here with any of these. And then I was just sitting there thinking, like, I really have to go with, I think, the war movie that blew me away because of the war aspect and the way, like, it was shot and everything, that has just really, really grabbed me. And I'm glad I got to see it in the theater, and I'm glad, that it still holds up, like, at home and everything. It really flows, and it really, like, puts you in the shoes of the soldiers. And so I'm gonna pick. It might be my favorite war movie. I got to rewatch it and stuff. But 1917, I think is a beautiful movie. That it's so weird. I cannot wait until Dylan and I get to 2019 and picture this, because that year, dude. Like I saw. I can't remember. I think I saw Parasite first. 1917. I saw Parasite. I loved it, and then I was like, "Oh shit!" Well, this 1917. It's like all shot and like, or like appears to be like one shot kind of thing. Like, I love those types of movies, like Birdman and stuff. I think are really cool. And then I saw 1917, and I was like, might like this better than Parasite. And so I kind of like juggle a lot of the times like those two. And then there's other ones that I think are phenomenal. Like even was Jojo Rabbit that year too?
Yeah, it's Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, Parasite, Little Women, Ford versus Ferrari. I think that's it.
He had to get all of them out.
Sorry, I think, yeah.
But yeah, even like what Jojo Rabbit was like another, but like War One too that I thought was really incredible that I could have picked. I thought about, but 1917, because always love war as a genre. I'm liking it more and more as we're watching more of the like best picture kind of stuff. But as we go through it, before I really started to get into it, I was like, I don't really like war as a genre. It's a lot of the time it's just really kind of dull for me, and it's just like I don't care about the terminology and trying to figure out like the battle stuff. But here, they simplify it down to you're in the shoes of the characters and you're following them the whole time, and they're just the little stories that they tell, like little experiences that they have. George McKay I love, and I don't understand where he is and like why he's not in a lot of stuff anymore. But when he came out with that, and it was like Captain Fantastic, and just all these other movies that I'm like, George McKay is gonna blow up because he's one of the best actors I've ever seen, and he's incredible in this movie. And I just love the way it's shot. I love that it's so personal for Sam Mendes. His personal father stuff, I think, and whatnot, and the brilliant cinematography. What's his name?
Roger Deakins.
Roger Deakins.
Yeah.
I think it's just so incredible. I still don't know how the hell they pulled this off. It's just such a marvel, and it's just beautiful to watch. So breathtaking. So like the lighting and just everything with this movie is incredible. So 1917.
Yeah. Dan, any thoughts on 1917?
Yeah, I remember that year I saw it in November 2nd of that year, the year that it came out, and it was my #1 movie of the year. I mean, I had it winning the Oscar for Best Picture from that moment I saw it. And I was like, I can't believe they were able to do this kind of achievement, and it's another Benedict Cumberbatch movie for Kelsey. She likes Benedict Cumberbatch. She's in 1917, and it's got Mark Strong, Richard Madden from Game of Thrones. It's got another Best Actor winner in Colin Firth. It's got amazing cameos in it. But I'll tell you, Dean Charles, the other kid in it, to me was the guy that. I mean, I like George McKay, but I like something Dean Charles was the other kid's name.
Yeah.
And
also Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah. He, to me, really had a great year that year because he was in another movie earlier in the year about Bruce Springsteen. And I thought his two performances that year, he was
Blinded by the Light.
Blinded by the Light. He came onto my radar that year, and I was like, I'm looking forward to seeing what this guy's got in the future. And I've seen him in a couple of things since then. He hasn't been like blowing up, the screen or anything like that, but he was a guy I really was looking forward to seeing where his career would go because of those two performances, 1917 and Blinded by the Light. But I love this movie. It was my #1 movie of the year that year.
Nice. Kelsey, have you seen this one? It's fairly recent. Have you seen this one or no? It's okay. I would have been disappointed if you had, because I love the recurring bit. But any thoughts to add, Kels?
Another one. I remember seeing there's one shot in particular of him running.
Yes.
That's like, I feel like the most iconic. I have seen that because people talk about that endlessly.
Yeah.
This isn't the one with Harry Styles.
No, that's Dunkirk.
No.
That's different. Okay. That's what I thought.
Not as good of a movie.
Okay, got it.
No,
well, I haven't seen that one either.
We'll talk. Yeah, that's great. I'll let Kerri have the last word because I think she likes this movie, because I do not like this movie, but I'm excited to rewatch it for Picture This, because at the time I think I was so pressured by everyone else who loved it to give it a positive rating, because I was like, everyone's saying it's the best thing ever and I hate it, but I think in time I might come to appreciate it more with more time. I don't know. I just not. I don't get it, but I do think a lot of people love it, and I'm very much in the minority. So that's why I'm gonna hold out the jury until we Picture This.
I think it's Dean Charles Chapman.
Dean Charles Chapman, yeah.
That's
little is it Tommen Baratheon? Poor kid. He has a tough end in Game of Thrones, jumping out that window. So sad. But Kerri, what are your thoughts on 1917? Because I think you're a little more positive on it. So I wanted to end with you because I didn't want to end with a negative note. But
yeah, I really like 1917. It is an amazing film. It is one of Chad's favorites. I knew as soon as he said like Oh, and I love how they filmed this. I was like, oh, it's going 1917.
Yeah.
So I've seen it quite a bit because it is, I think, one of Chad's favorite war films. And yeah, it's a good watch. It's a bit longer, and it can, for me, it's like not the type of movie I would necessarily throw on like a lot. But I mean, war movies are heavy in general. Like, you're kind of got to be in the mood to watch one.
Yeah. Also, just a cool little fun fact: my granny was born in 1917 and passed away in 2019. So on her little in her gravestone, it says 1917, 2019, which is also when you look at the actual title and it's got 1917 made in 2019. I just think it's like a cool little thing. So that was also kind of why in the moment I was like, oh, it's really cool. Like, this is like a memory of her, even though it has nothing to do with her background or upbringing or anything like that. But I just thought that was always a cool fun fact. But that is our draft. We did it. We made it through. I am going to rattle off our draft boards. Then I'm going to share Matt's pick because he was supposed to be on here and he did prep it and watch the film. And then we will get into some honorable mentions. But our draft boards here, some excellent drafts across the board. Just a really amazing collection of different types of drafts and different inspired films. But Kerri's draft board: Air Bud, Golden Receiver; Chadwick Boseman for Draft Day; The Muppets Christmas Carol, Life is Beautiful, and The Drunken Master. Dan's lineup is Casablanca, Fargo, Kevin Costner for Draft Day, Apocalypse Now, and North Dallas 40. Kelsey's lineup: Remember the Titans, Griffin Newman for Draft Day, The Imitation Game, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Superbad. Dylan's lineup: The World's End, The Hateful Eight, All Quiet on the Western Front 1930, The Game Plan, and Dennis Leary for Draft Day. And Chad's lineup: Shaun of the Dead, The Thing, Jennifer Garner, my birthday buddy in Draft Day, The Waterboy, and 1917. Excellent drafts all around. A lot of great recommendations that I get to now check out, which is so exciting. I always love when I leave the draft with more movies on my list. But speaking of lists, Matt did prepare 5 of each just in case, and he's going to share them. He doesn't have comments for all of them, so don't worry. It won't take a while, but I did want to bring them up. His war films, he did decide to make it non-fantasy war, so he didn't include any Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, but he did include Inglourious Bastards, Doctor Strangelove, Life is Beautiful, which Kerri picked, Apocalypse Now, which Dan picked, and then his number 5 was The Deer Hunter. So those are his 5. Again, the war category was so deep, and I'm sure in honorable mentions we'll get even deeper. For cold films, he said his number 1 was The Thing. His number 2 is The Ice Storm. He says in parentheses, if you guys haven't seen it, particularly Dylan and Chad, please watch it. It's my favorite Ang Lee film. We'll have to do that. Number 3, Fargo, which Dan picked. Number 4, the one that I thought was going to get picked, but one of the bigger snubs of this draft, The Shining. And number 5, A Simple Plan. His beer or drinking related films, his number 1 was Shaun of the Dead, which Chad picked, so you would have had to battle Matt out for that one. Number 2 was Sideways, another one I was surprised didn't get picked. Number 3, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which Chad and I just covered on Picture This. Number 4, Leaving Las Vegas. And number 5, which Kelsey picked, Superbad. His next category, football movies. His number 1 was almost all his picks were undrafted, but his number 1 pick was Jerry Maguire. His number 2, Rudy. His number 3, The Replacements. His number 4, Chad's favorite TV show, Friday Night Lights, but the film version. And then number 5, which is Kelsey's pick, Remember the Titans, and in parentheses he says, "Shut up, I like it," which I guess is because a lot of people don't, I guess, but we like it here. And then draft day performances, he only had 4, but he did have Downtown Griffin Nooms was his number 1. His number 2 was Sam Elliott, and in parentheses he says, "Sexy as fuck." He's apologized for the Power of the Dog situation. His number 3 is Chadwick Boseman. He says R.I.P. And then his number 4 is Dennis Leary. So those are all of Matt's picks. We appreciate Matt for prepping it, even though he didn't get to actually share it. But I guess we'll start. I'll start with honorable mentions, and we'll work our way around each one. But for war films, the well was so deep. Some of the ones I thought about, which are a little bit war tangential, which is like Oppenheimer, which is like kind of the behind the scenes of the war, less so the war itself. Schindler's List, which is more Holocaust specific than the actual fighting, but again, a war film, great war film. Top Gun Maverick. Not really sure which war particular. They kind of keep it anonymous, but I like that about it. Pan's Labyrinth, beautiful war film. The Great Escape, one of the best escape films. The aforementioned Dunkirk, which I think is a masterpiece. Atonement, beautiful film. We covered that on Picture This. Another one we covered on Picture This from my birth year, The Thin Red Line, which I thought Chad was going to pick, but it is an amazing, amazing war film. Another one from my birth year, an animated film, Mulan, an excellent war film. Another one from my birth year, Saving Private Ryan, a big year, 1998 for war films. And then lastly, I had Da 5 Bloods, great commentary on themes that we see in like Apocalypse Now and stuff. Chad, did you have any honorable mentions for war films?
Absolutely. Hold on, computer. Okay. War films. I had War for the Planet of the Apes.
Mm.
I picked 1917. I had The Thin Red Line on my list. I had Oppenheimer, and I also had Doctor Strangelove. I almost went Doctor Strangelove, but then I was like, I'm going to go with my heart and do 1917.
Nice. Kerri, any honorable mentions for War?
Yeah. I pulled down my list. A lot of them have already been mentioned in some form of another. And they were all World War II. I didn't realize until Dan talked about how everyone would choose World War II movies. I was like, oh yeah, all mine on my list are World War II. Inglourious Bastards, Godzilla -1, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan.
Love it. Dan, any other war films to bring up?
Yeah, you guys have already brought up Saving. Anybody bring up Platoon?
Platoon's a good one.
Brothers, which is about the Gulf War and PTSD and stuff, so forth. The Deer Hunter, Thin Red Line, we got that. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, Bridge on the River Kwai, Hogan's Heroes, Stripes, The Longest Day, Letters from Iwo Jima. I had 1917. I had both versions of All Quiet on the Western Front on there.
Nice. Kelsey, any other war films on your list?
I had American Sniper,
Okay.
Tropic Thunder,
Yeah.
and Captain America: The First Avenger.
It's a good one. It's the best of the trilogy, in my opinion.
No, it's not.
In my opinion, it's not.
I didn't hear that.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, you can't refute that. It's my opinion. Chad, what are your honorable mentions for cold set movies?
For cold. Like I said, the first one I wrote down was Fargo. Then I picked The Thing. I did have The Shining on there. If I had to go deeper, that was going to be number 3, I think. But then I also had Misery. That I think was really, really great. And then a newer one, Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. That's a good one. Kerri, any other cold set movies on your list?
Yes. Once The Shining was pretty far up my list. I was between that and Muppet Christmas Carol. The only one that hasn't been mentioned yet is Let the Right One In.
Ooh,
yes.
Another good one. You guys are bringing it. Dan, any other cold set movies?
Yeah, I have The Thing, obviously, The Shining, Fargo, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Society of the Snow / Alive, Cool Runnings, The Revenant, Mystery Alaska, Misery, Winter's Bone, Wind River, The Day After Tomorrow, Snowpiercer, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, and 30 Days of Night.
Ooh.
Nice. I didn't even think of Eternal Sunshine, but that is very clearly a valid cold movie. Yeah, you're right. Kelsey, any other honorable mentions for cold movies, cold drafty movies?
Frozen.
Yeah. Go on.
That's it.
Okay. Not Frozen 2. I'm kidding. That's actually not as
No.
cold. It's more autumnal.
No, that's in the springtime, I thought.
Autumn, spring.
'Cause
Either way, it's not too cold, but
the
it's also
snow
not
has
very
melted.
cold. Yeah, true. Cold movies. I had The Thing. I had The Shining. Those were like the big 3. The Thing, The Shining, Hateful Eight for me. Snowpiercer, The Revenant, great, and then Narnia and Society of the Snow was also on my list. So now we go back up to Kerri for beer / alcohol / drinking / alcoholism / bars, anything that have to do with alcohol.
Yeah, the only ones that weren't actually chosen that were on my list. The Shining also could have worked for drinking movie.
Absolutely.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and The Verdict.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Dan,
I forgot about The Verdict.
any other ones?
I forgot about The Verdict. God, I should have. Yeah, I had The Verdict on there. I have obviously Casablanca. Barfly. If you have not seen Barfly, it's going to be one of the best movies you ever see about this subject. It's got Faye Dunaway and Mickey Rourke. Phenomenal movie. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, except it revolves around drinking and it's in a bar. So there you go. I had to tell you that. The Way Back with Ben Affleck. Another Round with Mads Mikkelsen. The Tender Bar with Ben Affleck and directed by George Clooney. Cocktail, Tom Cruise. Mean Streets. The main setting most of the time they're at a bar.
Yeah.
Coyote Ugly. Goodwill Hunting. What's his name? Is an alcoholic recovering.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Robin Williams is a recovering alcoholic. Goodfellas, another one that's They're hanging out at a bar a lot of the time, or night, or little like watering holes and stuff. Sideways, Leaving Las Vegas, The Hangover, Roadhouse, and Lost in Translation.
Nice. Kelsey, any other drinking movies?
I watched all 3 of the Hangover movies in preparation. Only
So
the
sorry.
first one is only the
I was
first
gonna
one is
say.
good, is any good. I also watched Project X for the first time in my life. That was fine. And then I also have seen this movie from I don't know when with Miles Teller called 21 and Over. And it's basically the same plot of The Hangover, just in a different way.
There you go. For my other beer, alcohol inspired picks, The Way Back with Ben Affleck, a beautiful story about addiction. Another Round, as Dan mentioned, just such a great film. And then A Star Is Born, probably one of my favorite portrayals of alcoholism with Bradley Cooper. Just really, really tragic, but such a good movie. It was either that or World's End, but I went with the more one that embodied the more fun side and the darkness rather than just the grim darkness. Chad, any other alcohol, beer, bar?
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very close to picking Another Round because it rules. But also, outside pick maybe Blood Simple.
Nice. Cool. Oh, and also I did want to bring up, just because I forgot about it as well until Matt brought up, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? The whole thing is about an
Yeah.
alcoholic. So, and they go to a bar, and that's a haunting scene. All right, we're back up with Dan now. Dan, you shared all your football ones, but any other draft day performances to bring up?
Well, I had. Well, I have the whole list here. I mean, but I had Chadwick Webb, Kevin Costner, Jennifer Garner, Frank Langella, Ellen Burstyn, Dennis Leary, Sam Elliott, Patrick St. Elsbeth. Patrick St. Elsbeth is the Seattle Seahawks coach. He's fantastic. He's fantastic in his Chris Berman, Tom Welling, Arian Foster, P. Diddy, Terry Crews.
Yeah, it's a laundry list. Perfect. Kelsey, did you have any other football movies? And then if you want to highlight any other performances from draft day.
I watched Radio and I didn't love it. Obviously, I mean, there's just so much controversy surrounding it now, but like I really did love The Blind Side when it first came out. I think
I
Sandra
did
Bullock's
too. I loved it when
performance
it came out for the first time.
is
Yeah, I agree.
so good. And then I just hit a wall when it came to watching football movies, so I didn't really go beyond anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. So
That's
just
fair.
those 2.
That's fair. I also had I had Rudy on my list. That's kind of the one that a lot of people think of, even though I've never really watched it a lot. I've seen it once maybe. Jerry Maguire, another good one. Silver Linings Playbook, another great one. Invincible with Mark Wahlberg, even though I will never pick a movie about the Eagles. And then a movie that I might be employed by, but cannot mention on this podcast. Chad, any football films to bring up?
The movie I love is currently is The Blind Side. I'm just kidding. But I no, I'll bring up real movies that I actually like. Rudy, I did have. Jerry Maguire did have, and Dan actually mentioned this earlier. Movie that I almost picked. If I didn't pick The Waterboy, it was gonna be The Little Giants, because it's a movie I grew up with and that I adore. Just as a very kid, hey, you get out of here, okay? But no, like as a kid, I adored it. Wait, hold on.
Okay.
There he goes.
No, some section of America does.
I also wanted to say, like, also Draft Day could have been taken as a football film. No one did, but I mean, I would have also allowed it. I think Draft Day is a great football film as well. And there you go. There's Little Giants. Any other performances you want to highlight, Chad, from Draft Day?
Yeah, the other big one that I was gonna do was Tom Welling. That I thought he nailed it, like just
Superman.
being pissed off about I guess being cut or just being like a second string kind of deal, and he's like, I worked my ass off, and I don't know. I kind of wanted Superman to be on my draft board, but I think Jennifer Garner was just a brilliant pick too.
No, you didn't get Superman, but you got Elektra. And Kerri, any other draft day performances or any football films?
Let me double check. Football films. Oh, the one I was I have been messaging the group about like how far off of the topic of football can we get. So I was thinking about bringing up Bring It On, which technically has at least one football scene in it, but
True.
it's a cheerleading movie.
I just thought of one. I just thought
a
of
whole other
Bottoms.
sport.
Bottoms also counts as
Yes.
football. I didn't even think of that. Damn, I might have to go back to the well.
Mm.
That's a
and
great.
then
I like bringing on. That's good.
for performances that weren't already picked, Ellen Burstyn has a nice performance in this movie, and I thought the relationship, I couldn't justify choosing it because they're only in 2 scenes, but the relationship between Terry Crews and Arian Foster in this movie, and just that scene where he finds out he's getting picked to the Browns, I thought that was a really great scene, and their performances in that scene were great.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, that's it, guys. We did it. We're a little over 3 hours,
Wait,
but those are our honorable mentions. Kelsey, yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm surprised nobody drafted P. Diddy. No one wanted his performance
Kelsey,
from
stop.
Draft Day.
Stop it. No, stop.
Oh, okay. All right. Fine, won't go there.
If you would like me to change the draft board, Kelsey, and put that out there in the internet.
No, I like
let
my
me know.
pick.
All right. I knew someone was gonna bring it up. Anyway, that's it for draft day. You can find these guys all over the channel. They plug themselves so many different places. Kelsey and Chad, you can find here, doing some shows. Kerri and Dan are always guesting on them, but I will let them go around very quickly and say a few words, departing words for this episode, and where else they can find you. Starting with Kerri at the top. Kerri, where else can they find you? And any last comments?
You can find me on Welcome to Primetime, which is the show I do with Chad and Hunter on our YouTube channel. We cover all things horror. Our latest episode, I'm totally blanking, was a review of Long Legs.
Nice. And Dan.
Yeah, I'm a film critic in Orlando, Florida. I write for, I'm the editor-in-chief, and head film critic for FromTheFourthRow.com. I got all kinds of reviews on there. I got multiple writers, so if you don't want to read anything that I wrote, you can read something that one of my other writers write. We're going to be starting editorials pretty soon. Also, I'm on the Movie Hero Network a lot with Jordan and Austin and those guys over there. They do a lot of fun stuff over there. I've done 5 episodes with Dylan and Chad on Picture This. Hopefully, cross my fingers for some more episodes because I love doing that show. But I'll always do my watch-alongs as long as I'm capable. Also, tomorrow night, I'm going to be doing a new awards show panel podcast with my good buddy Luis Mendez. So keep an eye. We'll be going all the way through award season with this podcast. So hopefully we'll get Chad and Dylan on because they really bring it when it comes to award season coverage. They always have a good thought process and insight. So I hope we get those guys back. And did you guys see Wolverine and Deadpool? It's not as good as people think.
Kelsey and I will be talking about it tomorrow on Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, so stay tuned for that. Kelsey, speaking of, where else can they find you aside from Marvel-ous Movie Mondays tomorrow?
You know where you can find me.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
they know.
They know. Chad, anywhere else they can find you?
Up in my studio. Psych. I just wanted to. Kerri knows what I'm talking about. But no, you can find me on Checkout. Picture This, we mentioned, but also check out, we also mentioned Welcome to Primetime, doing a lot of great stuff over there. Check out, I newly brand Cinema Chad is my channel now. Thank you. But also, on that channel, check out a lot of our ranking episodes. It's You Ranking With Me is the show. We have a lot of fun over there. And that's pretty much it for now. I'll plug debates and stuff when they happen, I guess.
Yeah. And you can check me out here, Dyl Pickle Movie Network. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We do these once a month drafts. Next month, we will, now that the retrospective is going to be over, we will be doing trivia nights are going to be coming back next month. Also, my other 2 podcasts will be coming back next month. So they've been on hiatus for 2 months because of the retrospective, because there's just been so many 2014 movies to watch. But Kelsey and I will be reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine on Marvel-ous Movie Mondays this week. And then later on this week, Chad and I, as well as Malcolm, will be covering the 1966 movies of Picture This. We have that recorded. It's very exciting. Can't wait for you to see it. And Dan's not a fan of 1966, it seems. But we'll be on that episode there doing that. And then there's 2 more videos of this retrospective coming. One being if I had the Pickle Awards in 2014, what would my picks be for each category, the main categories, and then my top 14 movies of 2014. Those will be coming out very early August as I wrap up the retrospective in July. But if you cannot wait for those videos to find out what my top movies are, you can follow me on Letterboxd to find out what I have to say about them, including this film, Draft Day. If you haven't seen Draft Day, go watch it because we had some good things to say about it, as well as 20 other films. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you next month with yet another draft TBD. We'll let you know when it comes. But also go vote on the polls. They're up. So go vote. Thank you.